Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome back to ESA Season 5. I'm Uncooked Pasta. I am joined by Pobble over there
Hello.
to my left. And yeah, how are you all doing today? It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, we're on a Thursday as well because of
Whoa.
unforeseen circumstances, cancelling a match yesterday. But we're back. We got a stream running. Pretty excited because we're in a low bracket quarterfinals now. It's really crunch time for some of these teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Squeaky bum time, if you want to call it that, because elimination is waiting for the team that doesn't lose this, but for the team that wins, it's the top 6, I believe, if I can count. No.
It's top 4, isn't it? We're
It's
already at the top 6 mark.
Top 4.
Yeah.
Top 4. Yeah,
top
yeah,
4 on its way.
Yeah, so they've made it to the top 6, which is pretty good. Obviously, yeah, this game was supposed to happen yesterday, but it didn't. So let's go over to the Twitter. Let's go over to the Twitter, see what the prediction was from all of you at home, and NightWolve expected to take it.
Yeah, I mean these are two teams that have had drastically different journeys to get to this point. We've obviously had one of these teams knocked down straight away. I believe that was NightWolve, just straight away knocked that lower bracket. Whereas Villains, they kept afloat a bit, but still they meet in this lower bracket quarterfinals. So you'd think that NightWolve would maybe be not exactly favored here because they've had to play more matches, but still the public have gained confidence in them. They've put up a good showing so far. It reflects in the Twitter vote.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking to where we're going to be starting for our maps, we actually are starting with Villa first because NightWolve banned first. It's meant our overlays kind of gone a little bit funky, but Villa, then Chalet, and if we go to all the way, then it will be Cafe Dostoevsky to round out the night. So that's what we're looking at here, Joe.
Yeah, and Villa, Chalet, two maps that play quite differently. Villa statistically favoring that defense traditionally as well as a kind of defensive stronghold. There's so much to clear, so many harsh angles for the attack to play. Whereas Chalet, there's a lot more window play, a lot more attacker favored angles with these longer range gunfights that you're taking. And we would traditionally see the attack maybe going like a 4-2 half on Chalet, where on Villa, the opposite. You'd be not too sad to get a 4-2 defensive half on Villa.
Yeah, you would certainly not be too mad about it at all. Looking at Villa as well, about 58% of the rounds are won by the defense historically throughout the league, and we've got a pretty good pool of that as well. This is the 26th time that we've seen Villa actually be picked. Obviously, not all of those will have gone ahead because some of them might be the decider of a best of 3, but out of a pool of 244 rounds, it's 140 of them that are actually won by the defense, which means that we should have a pretty good handle on what is expected. And about 50% of those rounds are won by the defense. So we head over to the countryside of Tuscany. All good. We love Tuscany. We head over to obviously Italy, and we find ourselves Villa with Villains with our first ban.
Yeah, and I think notice with Villains here is they've actually won this map veto, I'd say, because Chalet and Villa are two maps that they've never banned, so they're clearly confident in these two maps. So despite the public maybe favouring NightWolve here, there's potential for a Villains 2-0.
Yeah, it's very, very possible for this to come through, obviously. We never know what will happen. That's why we're here to cast. But Flores being taken off the board first of all is going to mean that those RC Roteros, a lot of the utility for the defense. Oh no, will be should be just get taken off the board right away. Jackal as well possibly hints to a more aggressive defensive style that we'll see coming through from NightWolve, just making sure that the that sort of hunting of the roamers just doesn't really happen.
Yeah, and we're seeing that aggression muted on both sides, though, with the Valkyrie getting banned. That does limit the playmaking capabilities of the defense, a lot less intel to play off, and the intel gadgets you will bring in replacement of Valkyrie are much more visible, much more easy to counter, I'd say, than finding those Valk cams. And we do have the player returning, so No rehost yet, no pause yet. We're still free of technical issues, and the Azami goes off the board. A very strong operator, very highly banned in seemingly all tiers of play. The Kiba barriers just make clearing positions so much more difficult for the attack, and they just completely change the fundamental way that some positions are played for the defense.
Yeah, absolutely. So we will see the first round coming through here. AVG is going to be this sort of plan of action for the defense of villains. Obviously, it's a very, very common place to defend. It's possibly the best site on the map. Obviously, there can be arguments made for trophy statuary, but I think most people will argue that AVG is that sort of defensive stronghold. You know, you can get pretty good control of study without actually having to hold it yourself. You have the vault area as well, which is just makes it very, very easy to have lines of sight onto both bomb sites. And the roam's pretty effective as well. You know, you can hold underneath, you can hold on the main stairs, possibly over into trophy and stat as well. And you can see actually it will be Nerd who's setting up with the Legion over here inside a trophy.
Yeah, AVG very defender favored. There's a lot of easy gunfights the defense take here to really stall at that push, and we are seeing an extension towards the bedroom here. We see that Solus playing from below, likely feeding intel to Nerd, but as you say, that Nerd doesn't come back, maybe focusing on that red stairs, although if going back to 90, this might just be a full bunker setup with that Solus alone off on a island, you could say, just getting that intel below sight while the other players just remain very tightly packed together. We have that main stairs control from Cody. We also have Ian getting ready to swing on that study, and as the blitz comes in on the main stairs, the kill comes out from Blacklist, but the blitz is down. That push seemingly failed, but someone is going to refrag on the master stairs. Shut down again, that was Blacklist who gets it open, so we just can't get another, and suddenly the attack seems to be quite weak here.
Yeah, Cobra though does go for a swing on the main stairs, and suddenly 2 kills come back the other way. Nerd with a triple in the round, however, gets shut down by Phantom. Now it's a 1 versus 2 for Kisa. The alibi stuck on the bottom side. He's going to take the swing with a bait from Shinji. Is going to win it out. And that's NightWolve finding the first. Look at that, perfectly played by the Yana in that situation. Didn't even need the diffuser in the end of things. Round 1 goes away the attack.
It was a very surprising turn of events there. It seemed like a bit of a misstep from the attack, going heavily onto that blitz push onto main stairs, but the blitz was just completely taken out there, and luckily for them, you see Blacklist get that first kill, and the other members of NightWolve really just clean up by the end of that round, but it looked a bit shaky for them to begin with, and if they weren't winning those gunfights, it could have easily gone towards the side of villains.
Yeah, absolutely. As we just have some connection issues, so we'll look to get those sorted as soon as possible. So, you know, let's just bring things back. You know, look at that first round. Obviously, villains. It started out pretty good for them. Obviously, Blacklist did get the first kill, but Nerd had a blinder of a round, got those 3 kills. But hey, the rest of the team just couldn't really hit their shots.
Yeah, and it was just legitimately so hard to really tell what was going on there, because it seemed like 7 kills came out in a matter of seconds, and it went from a favorable 4 versus 3 down to that 1 versus 2. And Shinji, he had to make a play there. He tried to go for the swing on the Yana, expertly, but it wasn't Shinji. It was the Wamai. Who's playing the Wamai?
Kian.
It was Kian. It was Kian. He had to go for a play there.
Yeah,
and Shinji excellently baits it out. He knows not to sacrifice that sort of advantage by putting himself in a vulnerable position, just plays for the sound and works out wonders. So I'm not going to say a confident attack. I'm not fully convinced, but
yeah,
when it came down to they execute, they did certainly put up good numbers there. They got their picks when they needed to, despite that sort of spearhead of the attack, the blitz being taken out so early on.
Absolutely, the blitz kind of falling did honestly made me a bit worried for NightWolve, but they were able to pull it back. Again, there were some questionable decisions made in that round. I guess you could say, you know, looking towards Cobra taking the swing on the main stairs, you might necessarily call it a mistake, but yeah, I mean, in the heat of the moment, it's very difficult to gauge those sort of things. So yeah, what can you say about it other than it was a nice try from Villains, but the guns, I think, were the main factor there in that round.
Yeah, absolutely. When you sacrifice that opening pick, especially on the sort of the defense, when you're the enemy team are so close to the site, you really have to get that mentality of I need to make a play here. So we saw them getting a little bit eager on that swing, and that's kind of what caused the downfall in that round. But again, you can't really put too much of that on the side of the defense. It was a good attack that really caught them off guard. The blitz, especially, they weren't really expecting additional forces behind that blitz because they thought they had the cutoff, but it seemed like the Ash just sort of slinked in by. Kean didn't notice, and it was a good attempt from both teams. And if that's a reflection of the whole series, then we're looking to have a close series on our hands.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with how many times the favor sort of swung back and forth, even within that first round as well. You know, had opening pick, immediately traded, then man advantage for Villains, and then it swings right back the other way after a few seconds. It's that sort of high capacity, high power siege that is really fun to see. It's really fun to watch as well. You know, just the high power punches. Obviously, you know, some strategy as well. Obviously, they did try to sort of play around the blitz and it didn't really work. And, you know, you have that last resort in the back pocket of we can just frag out here and win. So, you know, hoping to see that sort of strategical side sort of shine through a little bit when we get into those following rounds, which again we should have for you very quickly. We've got some connection issues and stuff like that happening in the background. But yeah, just hoping that strategy sort of shines through and we get to really witness, you know, because Siege is a very strategical game. Obviously, it is an FPS at heart, but, you know, and I think where it looks like we're going to be going to trophy statuary, that provides the opportunity there for getting that strategy across, you know, thinking about the triple wall in bedroom, thinking about, you know, red stairs, Astro, bathroom even. All these places have to be very carefully sort of weeded out and gained by the attack because otherwise the attack's just not going to work.
Yeah, the one big flaw with AVG is the very close proximity to that doorway.
Yeah.
So it does allow for these kind of rush strats, but as you're saying, trophy statuary, there's a lot more the attack actually have to go through especially if you're playing those positions properly, you're playing your utility properly. It should be a much more difficult task for the side of NightWolve there. We'll just have to see. Eventually, when this game comes back on, I believe we're still having issues with one of our players.
We're just gonna go to a bit of a technical break, but yeah, when we get back, we will have the game underway for you. So don't go anywhere because round one was a banger, and hopefully we've got more from there. See you in a few minutes. Honestly, I'm cursed.
And we're back after that very short tech pause. We are back, ready to keep going with this matchup. We're seeing Villains choose to go for that secondary site, the trophy statuary, and we were talking before the break how we're hoping that they play more into utility this time. They make the attack, clear more things, slow down the pace. So they lost to a rush round one, and you can't really prep for. It is what it is. It happens, but this is a much harder site for these fast executes to come in. So hopefully the side of Villains here realize that they play this utility and they try and really just slow down to a snail's pace the attack here. They want them to get really just bogged down with clearing various pieces of utility. You've got that Ella, that Jaeger, Solace for the intel, the one by Magnus as well. This is certainly a very sluggish defense that they're employing here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it's not necessarily like a Malusi or anything like that, but, you know, it is still sort of slowing down the attack, making sure they have to clear everything properly. And while the attack are going to respond in kind, going to be doing a full across clear from that southern side, making sure that no stone is left unturned when out on the roam. They do need to be aware of Eternal over on the red stairs, but Cobra is called out on 90, making it a very early pick yet again for NightWolve eSports, as Bankers is just continuing to push the line here, challenging onto Kian over there by all the way into the bomb site actually, but Kian does find that pick right back, makes it 4 versus 4, but that can't equal once again. Nerd has to get out just because of that pressure coming through yet again. That time it was Blacklist over on the top of red stairs. They still don't know about Eternal though, it seems. Just lingering at the bottom of those red stairs could make it very awkward, and does find the pick onto Blacklist. That's Irash going down. And now it can just rotate all the way back, I think possibly through the basement and then up through kitchen, up to the bomb site. Shinji is on the hunt, however, downstairs, going to hopefully make it 3 versus 3 for the sake of NightWolve, but no, just gets out of dodge. Eternal does not want any part of that as Kian finds a second.
Eternal playing his life here so well, wasting so much time. He is commanding Shinji's attention here while not putting himself in any real dangerous situation. We see Nerd coming for this black now. Shinji surely has no clue, but some whip shots from Nerd followed by an excellent wallbang. They've cleared up Andana, and now it's all in Phantom outside the ace. All 3 hard breaches in pocket, no claymores. He is in a frankly unwinnable situation here as long as villains just play this crossfire well. 4 versus 1, and Phantom is taking this time off.
Yeah. I mean, it would have to be a colossal misplay from Villains for this round to go in the way of NightWolves. 50 seconds left is kind of decent time, and when you've got 4 guns staring back at you, it's going to make it very difficult indeed to actually try and get anything across here. Nerd playing really aggressive up towards this window as well, taking some swing. He's not quite able to land the shot, but no damage dealt back either way, so 30 seconds now. Going to be the run out from Keysat to shut it down, and that's 1-1. And I mean, that round much better from Villains. I mean, you had that sort of strategical side, but also just having that little needle in the haystack to find Eternal just dipping and weaving downstairs, Nerd coming down to assist as well. Just perfectly played and really good game sense to go for that play.
And Kian as well, holding that really tight angle from side.
Yeah, for sure.
He provides that bit of early aggression to try and get a brief refrag onto Banquist. He realizes that doesn't work, so he pulls back, plays that passive angle, completely stops the push from Mighty. Gets a pick and takes the angle. That gives Eternal enough time and confidence to go for that push to the red stairs, get his pick, and then flee back to the basement. And that just completely crippled the attack. It left them struggling to choose the target to pick. They were unsure whether they wanted to keep focusing sight or if they wanted to pick off that Roma. Meanwhile, Phantom alone outside, so overall a much better defense from Villains there.
Yeah, absolutely. It showed that confidence, it showed that sort of prowess that we've come to expect from them. Obviously, they did lose out in that upper bracket, but that was to a very good Entropy side who have now beaten Minions to make it to the grand final, no less. So let's just think about that. Entropy Gaming were last season's champions. They've made it all the way to the grand finals again. You're absolutely not going to be concerned if you lost to them. And it was in a pretty, not quite close fashion, but it wasn't dominant either. 7-4, 7-3 is a pretty good scoreline going up against the previous champions, and they've made it all the way so far. They've only dropped a map to Team Black in this entire bracket. So Villains are hopefully not going to be dissuaded from that, and we're seeing that confidence yet again. With Eternal down here on the bottom floor, going to be hunting for Shinji. Blacklist does find Nerd as the opening gunfight. Oh, but it goes the other way, and Shinji's able to find it as well. 2 kills this time for NightWolve, and there's another AVG defense that's just completely falling apart for Villains.
5 versus
Picking them up,
3,
and they just let me down like this, honestly.
That's two of your main roamers taken out. Eternal, who was such a problem last round, and Nerd, who was the only real bright spot of round one. That being said, Kian, he does get a response onto Shinji, and Red Stairs is still under the control of the defense. This is still a critical position for Villains here. They can't afford to lose this because that makes defending much harder, but it seems like they just want to play their life. Cobra playing very passively on 90, and Kian goes all the way back into study. It's Kisat alone and Solo Wheelers are playing these more extended angles. Keepers on that Nomad places the edge on Red Stairs to cut off any potential flank. They don't want to repeat the same mistake, but Vanquish gets a beautiful two-piece the same place as last round. Keepers gets the final kill. NightWolve respond with a much more confident attack, and it doesn't rely on a rush this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Kian could only do so much to help the team. AVG floated yet again for Villains. And at this point, to maybe think about just going to that tertiary, because this defense clearly not working out. They're going to have to pull something out the bag here if it's going to make it worth it, because just a reminder, this map is, or this site is usually the guarantee for defenders. This is usually the one that, yeah, you're expecting them to actually get across the board, even if it's a 4-2 attack in half. AVG is usually the bomb site that is won by the defense. So to lose there twice, and now we're coming here again, makes me slightly nervous for Villains in this situation.
Yeah, but Villains are bringing out the big guns here. We see that Mera being played a very highly banned operator due to how strong that gadget can be. Especially online, we don't really have an opportunity to respond to some of these peaks because of how online latency works. So this will, I hope, really sort of weigh the scales in favor of the defense. You're sacrificing that Solace, who did find value in one round, but was quickly dispatched up the following round. So
yeah,
I like this change. It allows you to hopefully stay alive a lot longer because you will be playing in the site position. And these mirror windows could be a real menace to the attack to try and clear.
Seeing a similar sort of approach though from the side of NightWolve. They're pushing across from that northern side, making sure they have all of the map control before heading for the execute onto the bomb site. So whereas round one we saw them go for study, this time they're going for this Astro side and it doesn't work out. Nerd taking out Blacklist very early on, and we're seeing NightWolve not really shy away from these opening engagements. I think every single one of the opening pick has been within the first minute of the round even. It just shows both these teams, they're not afraid of each other. They are getting aggressive here. And it just plays into that confidence yet again. Villains not persuaded away from this. It's going to be just still peeking these angles from Nerd.
Yeah, and you can see it from NightWolve, they really don't want to push that mirror window. They're trying to go through study. Shinji does get a pick below, I believe.
Wait, did Nerd jump over?
I believe so. He must have, unless he was a floor ban. He must have tried to escape his position. That might give NightWolve the confidence to try and push the mirror window. He goes to a flank, immediately spotted out, misses the shots.
Oh, he must have been floor.
Kian has to go through, has to just retreat now. He doesn't want to give away his life here to potentially weigh that man advantage back in favor of NightWolve. It's a 4 versus 4. Ash and Frost down. Not the worst and greatest to die. You still have something for your execute. You have the hard breach with flashes, and you also have the Nitro Cell on the side of Eternal to that point. It's a lot much worse of a situation for the defense, giving away that pick from Nerd.
Yeah, absolutely. And just looking back, it wasn't actually through. It was actually through the floor when the rotate was made. It was made with an impact grenade, and that's actually what led to the death of Nerd. So those small early round decisions have quite big consequences. Lovely shot from Keysat though to take me away from my philosophizing. It's just going to find one. Shinji with a great response though through the vault hole and making it the 3 versus 3 yet again. 35 seconds on the clock. The attack need to start getting a wriggle on because they are going to struggle. But these are still in the hands with Phantom. Cobra is going to look to keep this this vault angle, making sure that the entry to the bomb site is denied. And Shinji just going to be pushing his luck, but doesn't want to get too aggressive. Phantom has rotated round to study. Kian is there to watch and support the defenders. And actually is going to find a bit of damage onto the ace, but he's made his way inside of the he's made himself inside now and gets taken out. Shinji comes in through the bomb site, shut down by Cobra. Kikas does find that first one, but there's no time. That's going to be a good defense coming across from Villains. They're able to make it 2-2, and yeah, they just didn't shy away from it, and they get the win.
Yeah, much more convincing defense from the side of Villains there, obviously helped by that frost. But Mira was really quite impactful there, even though I don't think Eternal got in a single gunfight there. Just the pressure of those windows forced the attack to go into to opt into less safe routes. They go towards Astra, they can't check the angle, and Blacklist pays for it very early in the round. Druid does get pulled off on an impact hold. I know you, in ranked games, always complain about impacts being used for rotates, and well, that's a little bit of proof to your ideology there. Druid does suffer because of that early round slot, not choosing to just make the rotate with the shotgun. We see Keysat make it with the shotgun this time. Don't want to repeat that same mistake. But it was still a good defensive round. We saw the players from Villains know when to back off. We saw Eternal take that bottom floor position. They knew the execute was coming in. Luckily, didn't need to get that far because Kian was a real wall on that main stairs stopping it. But they still had that insurance policy if things didn't go well, and that's what I really liked from that round. They always had backup plans.
Yeah, absolutely. They always had that plan B, plan C, plan D, and we're seeing a similar thing here. You know, we have the mirror yet again. Eternal playing over near AVG, just going to apply some pressure onto that study balcony, deny the approach from the attack, which means they're going to have to focus on this northern side instead. We've already seen Vankers get into bathroom. The closet Frostmat has been spotted out as well. Cobra just going to be forced away from that position, does not want to get too aggressive. So default cam is going to be providing some decent information in there until at least it gets shot out, which means that 1 minute to go. This is quite possibly the slowest round we've had so far, but Nerd is pushing up with Astro Stairs, goes for the fight and loses it to Bankers. The lovely pixel angle coming through from the IQ, and now 1 minute fallen by the wayside and one player to boot. 4 versus 5, and Seekers is next to take some damage.
Was there beautiful shots there, and that immediately alleviates a lot of pressure on the attack. They can now focus on this Astra rotate. I say that Kian, he already knows this. He's rotating round. C4 from Eternal gets him, Kian is now retaking the position from his fallen teammate. He holds this long angle into bathroom where he can stop the like out killing drone. That being said, Shinji still in the cutoff. Kian gets a little bit eager. He pushes forward, and another body dropped by Blacklist is trading.
They haven't played the
Eternal 2 versus 3. 2 versus 2! Shinji, no! Eternal is down. It's all on Kisa. Ratting in the corner on the shot. He's not had much impact this match, and he's full blind. Can this be a 1v2 clutch for him? Phantom doesn't know his position, but still gets the kill. Failed 1 versus 2. Good attack once again as these teams continue to go blow for blow.
That's unlucky from Keysat. Just can't quite land those shots, and it doesn't work out. It's now 3 rounds on the attack, and we're not seeing a single tertiary bomb site because Villains just haven't been winning their primary and secondary. We're going back to trophy. This time Eternal still on that mirror, but instead of the frost, we're seeing the Melusi being brought along by Keysat. Maybe just hoping to just get a little bit fraggy with the MP5. It's not a bad idea, you know. They just kind of weren't able to quite get those gunfights across the board last time. Hopefully this time, maybe they have that.
Vince going back to trophy statue though.
No.
They've given the attack 3 different rounds now to feel out this defense, find the flaws, find the cracks. So not even taking it to a tertiary site just to get the advantage, just to surprise them with something new. They could potentially be paying for this with a 14-half going onto their attacks. Statistically, as you mentioned, about 58% defensive win rate. You don't want to be losing a half on the defense. At the very least, you want to go 50-50, get that 3-3 split, but it's not looking likely for Villains here as they're just continuing to give the attack the same problems to solve. We're seeing this extension on the south side by Eternal with this mirror window, hoping that it'll get the same impact, but it doesn't. Blacklist just marches on through. He's going towards bar, going into games perhaps.
They're hunting a tunnel.
But he doesn't really know what he's going on. He's got to fight to win this fight, but he misses, and that's the mirror immediately not finding anywhere near as much value. There's the big shots from Blacklist, but he's survived. That's the main thing. This round is thoroughly taken by the
Yeah, Kian gets one before being shut down by Kikas. That's Shinji falling. Blacklist still on a slither of HP. So it could almost be a 3 versus 3. Kisat, though, is not looking the healthiest himself, on about 60 points of health. So as the first minute has gone by, we're seeing a lot of early round action here as NightWolve are attempting to clear the map. The air jabs go out from the Nomad of Kikas. Just going to make those flanks just a little more tricky from the side of Villains, especially looking towards Nerd on the yellow downstairs. As the pressure now starting to come through from the other side as well. Master Bedroom starting to be opened up by the attack as Kikas has actually made their way onto the bomb site. Diffuser, though, is in the hands of Phantom, still outside on that bedroom balcony, so they need to make their way in as Kisat. Well, they're probably going to be aware of the position now, and especially the Cobra's been killed. The comms are going to be ringing out. Nerd does find that one, but Bankers is now going to rush in. Kisat can't find the kill. The SMG-12 comes out, and now it's all down to Nerd. About 10 HP, and still has to find a 1 versus 2. Bankers and Blacklist are both also low. They're holding the cutoff with the Mark 14, and that's going to be 4 rounds to the attack of NightWolve, absolutely decimating Villains here on their own map pick of Villains.
Yeah, Villains just had no response to that aggression really that entire half. They were consistently losing these entry engagements, sometimes without even a trade to boot, and it just really puts them in a bad situation when they have to defend these sites. Compounded that with the fact that they went to the same 2 sites, 3 rounds apiece, which gave the attack so much information to work with, so much experience playing on those sites. It was a really grim half there, and honestly, the sort of level of play carrying these 2 sides, you might have easily seen a 1-5 split there. NightWolve are really just running all over them there. As I said, the aggression, they just can't match it. Now with NightWolve going with good defense, that aggression could be even more of a sticking point.
Yeah, NightWolve heading onto the favoured side of their own map pick. Certainly back them to close it out here in Villa. Make it possibly even, 7-3, 7-2. Just the way that the rotation could work out. But they've actually chosen Trophy Statuary as their primary site, avoiding AVG for now. We'll have to see how that goes for them, but obviously you do kind of expect the 2 top floor sites to be the ones that the defense win, right? Kitchen Dining as the tertiary, you would say probably won by the attackers, but hey, the first half of this map has said anything. It's that the attack can win anywhere if they so choose, and if they have that capacity, which we've seen from both of these teams, they do. They've made it to the top 6 of ESA Season 5. So obviously the caliber of these teams, getting through the other, 26 teams to get here. Quick maths. It's going to be, you do tend to say that they have that prowess, they have that capability, but yeah, I just don't necessarily know if Villains are going to be able to show up here in Villa. Two halves of this game and whatnot, but I just don't know if it will happen.
And NightWolve with this composition here is really focused on just draining the time bank. Mute and Mozzie is such an effective pairing. Matching that with the Captain is just, quite frankly, evil. They are forcing the attack to drone every single doorway, and all these doorways are going to be simply blocked anyway. That being said, he could get a great opening pick here, but Shinji just slips away back at the red stairs, and that was potentially the round lost to the side of Villains now. Quite a sweeping statement, but you really need an opening pick like that to set you up on the space. And Eternal wasn't a frost map. It looked like it was just a down while he was rolling in. Not a very good, and they sacrificed the opening pick. 1 set of nades gone. You still have 4 remaining for Keen and but this attack just got even more difficult.
Yeah, especially when you look at the kills. Eternal was 3 and 4, now 3 and 5, but they don't really have a standout player so far, whereas, you're looking over to NightWolve, Bankers 6 and 4, Shinji 7 and 5, Kikas as well, making a name for himself 6 and 2, make it 7 and 2. He takes down Kisat, Shinji getting in on the action, and how about a flawless round to start the half, Joe? NightWolve get us up to 5 rounds to 2 as they just completely tear apart that attack.
Yeah, Siege is a game of two halves, and it looks like NightWolve might just win both of them here. A very strong opening, and that could just be a morale breaker for the side of Villains for this map. 5-2 advantage with all the sites to play for now. They can go that AVG, potentially look out 6-2, and then they just run the rotation again. It's really looking dire for the side of Villains here because they just can't respond to this aggression, whether it be on the attack or the defense.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you know, we saw a much slower attack come out from Villains than we did see from NightWolve. You know, NightWolve, they were getting into those positions early, you know, within the first half of the round, even in the bomb site sometimes. Always the opening pick within the first minute, whereas there it took until the 1:20 mark. Like, you might say it's a bit more standard, but when you're playing against a team as explosive as NightWolve, it just makes it so much more difficult because as soon as you try and make that entry, they will just completely spring on you, and you need to be ready for that. And when you don't have the time to adapt, that's when you're completely going to fall apart. And we saw it in that round number 7. They didn't get a single kill, did Villains?
Yeah, we're going to be seeing AVG in play now. Villains opting to bring that double hard breach, that insurance policy. They're potentially expecting this this early aggression on one of these members, so they just want to have all of these avenues covered, have the Havana. Still, Corporate is more than capable of fragging if need be. The AK-12 and the Type 89 along with the Bearing are very strong weapons here. But it's still going to be a case of getting to sight, and once again, NightWolve bringing this Mozzie, this Capcan, also a smoke for that execute denial. It's just such an annoying defense to clear. There's so many things you have to check.
Oh, there we go.
Especially, but Eternal gets a good pick onto that Warden, and that's a key pick early on because that's potentially your main, along with the smoke, your main tools to deny the execute. Luckily for the side of NightWolve, there are no smoke grenades here. They do have one set of flashes from Cobra.
Do they know about
not the absolute worst pick. Yeah, as you say, Shinji alone in the corner and they don't know, but he can't. He gets one, potentially a second. He gets the pistol out. He gets a gun lap down to Kian, but the pick is eventually found. But you know, with the smoke still on the board, that's Kian potentially guaranteed dead if he wants to march into sight when it comes to the execute. This grenade will do enough damage to down him, so it's certainly a good trade from Shinji here, a good play. He gets rid of the Yana. Eternal, one of the better looking players on the side of Villains here, and overall this is still a defense that is by no means on the side of Villains.
Yeah, they are in that player disadvantage, but the timer is still that 6-man for the defense, and that kind of makes it 4-4, especially as we're going to head into those final few moments of the round. We are seeing an Ossa being brought along. That's going to be Keysat bringing that one just to make that post, make that planting position a little bit more powerful as we see the first toxic phase canister from the smoke coming through, and Blacklist gets down. So early utility usage for the defense. They just want to stave this off for as long as possible, really get the pressure going for the attackers. It's now Kikas who's going to go for the swing in... Oh, doesn't quite find the kill. He's going to get shut down for as a result. Never mind. He gets a flick onto Cobra. Nerdo into the bomb site and did find the kill. Phantom doesn't have the toxic babes left as the timer starts to tick down again, but Nerd shuts down Kikas. It's now Phantom 1 versus 3. SMG 11 out does find the first. This is a new lease of life, a new invigorated Villains that we're seeing here. Plant starting to go down by Kian, and Toxic Babe into Vault doesn't quite do enough. Nerd shuts it down, and that's a lifeline being thrown now. 3 rounds to the attack, or 3 rounds even to Villains, and they've just won on AVG, something that we criticized Villains for allowing to happen. And this time, they're the ones that do it. AVG coming out again, and, well, could it just be the same story yet again here, Joe? Yeah, also, I love the copper background from Cobra. I just think that's brilliant.
Copper background is great. It is a great piece of intimidation. Obviously, we don't have 6-pick anymore. You can't see those backgrounds.
I mean, he is 1 and 8, but, you know.
It's still some amount of mental warfare. If you died a Cobra who was going 1 and 8, you see the copper background as well. You're the most pleased, but
that's true.
Plenty of reasons to still 5-3 up. They have all the defensive rounds. The sights of the play, and they go down on this AVG, a mistake that we criticised Villains for in their defense. So we're going to see them learn from their mistakes here, which demonstrate that ball on their defensive half. And You know, in the event that this round is lost by NightWolve, we would hope that they would have to go back to trying that trade or test the waters a bit on one of those tertiary sites. Just because we don't want to see the same sort of mistakes costing these teams again. It would be really sort of annoying to see both teams stumble with the same pitfalls and the same problems to work with, but they're doing slightly more passive here. We don't obviously have Shinji hiding in a corner, Blacklist in a much more difficult position to dislodge him from. Blacklist, he's just going back to that red stairs, so immediate playstyle difference we see from NightWolve. They are putting a lot more value on their lives, especially early on in this round, because they saw how well their rounds were on attack when they were getting the early picks, so they don't want to give the attack any chance of that.
Yeah, and we saw that be really strong in round number 7. They just weren't getting into harm's way in the early round. It meant that the pressure was all on Villains to try and find that opening pick, and obviously it didn't work out for them. So it's a very effective tactic, and well, we're seeing it in use here once again. Blacklist was just going to completely dip as soon as the drones came through. Just get out of dodge. Shinji is downstairs applying a bit of vertical pressure and actually takes down Kisa. Kian does find Blacklist over on the red stairs, so Shinji's going to have to find another avenue back, to the bomb site. Kian still with that Overwatch, but this is very early pressure yet again from Villains. They're able to get that adjacent to the bomb site within the first half of the round. That's giving them good time to set up for the execute. It's going to mean that Phantom is going to have to use those Toxic Babe canisters just a little bit earlier than maybe he'd like. It's 3 of 10 seconds in the last 30 seconds if no executors come through from then. As a smoke, you're pretty much good, but Phantom's have to throw the first one out already onto that landing. Make sure that the attack just can't get anything as the Vault Breach opened up once again by the Ace of Nerd. Shinji's now kind of stuck.
Yeah, there's no definitely no Nitro Shinji goes down, but both great plays so.
Oh my god, yeah.
Utility there, and Kian gets a third on the run. Really showing down this defense. A good trade from Phantom there. Got a lot of utility in this round already, but he gets taken down by Cobra. Vanquist falls as well. Our 4th defensive loss on AVG this map.
Yeah, no, I think it is. So maybe let's not go AVG. They still have trophy stat, which they won before, but then after that, kitchen dining, maybe? Heck, even living room library could probably be a better option than AVG at this point. These teams just seem so well rehearsed on how to attack onto this bomb site that it almost doesn't seem worth going for that supposed primary option anymore. Go for that off-meta pick of living library, hope that the attack don't really know how to attack it and that your just sort of gun skill can win it out, because that's what we saw NightWolve kind of thrive on in that first half, is being able to shoot their guns more effectively than Villains.
Yeah, and it was a good adaptation from NightWolve there. We saw Phantom on those Mozzie drones playing the smoke just inside, giving loads of utility and loads of intel. And Shinji and Blacklist had those pre-placed Nitro cells, so they didn't have anything for Plant now, but they were aiming to get an early pick. Try to emulate the success they had on their attack, and it very nearly worked. There were 2 players in study. They're just too far away from that Nitro cell on the hatch. So it was a nice change, choosing to avoid the heads-up gunfights that were lost in Aviator games previously. But these isolate defenders then got caught out further onto the round, which just led to an insurmountable command advantage. Despite the heroics, Phantom and Vanquist goes down very early. Another open pick in favour of the attack. I'm not sure either if he was pressing onto the closet or if he was a wall runner. Quite an odd position to die in there. Very unfortunate for the side.
Yeah, it must have been inside a closet, because it looks like bathroom 3.
Well, yeah.
Or is that just
throwing away his life essentially there and giving a lot of control in the side, but there's still plenty of defenders to answer this instant aggression.
Yeah, 3 C4s, Shinji did just use theirs, but still 2 in the back pocket. Blacklist as well does have 2 drones under his command as well, which could potentially aid the attack in getting that, potentially aid NightWolve even, in getting the intel onto the attack of Villains. He is just going to have to sort of play a bit safer though, because obviously once he goes down, there's going to be no options to get it back, as well. Eternal takes a bit of damage, Blacklist as well. As I said, he needs to play safer. Getting a bit of damage taken down to him. Another C4 comes out, but Nothing found from it. Phantom just wasting that one as well. Blacklist has also gone out, I believe. Pika's downed as well. Could potentially make this a 3 versus 5 here. Blacklist and Phantom both on about 50 HP or less. Shinji, the only player on the defense who's on full HP, as Blacklist does find a trade, does find that response on the outside, but now Phantom's down. Pika's still DBNO, making it a much more difficult position. Effectively a 2 versus 4 for the defense as well. Villains look like they might want to make it 5-all, tie us up here, and guarantee that we see all 12 rounds. And I'm going to float the possibility of overtime here, because it seems like both these teams want it, but Villains might just want the win a little bit more, as now Kikas and Blacklist both down. Shinji, and effectively a clutch 1 versus 4 in this situation. It's going to be very, very difficult to try and close this one out. Nerd on the hunt, 11 kills to his name. Can he make it 12? Indeed he can. There's Shinji being felled here in the final moments. That's 5 rounds apiece. And well, if they go back to trophy or AVG, I might just scream or cry or something. No, please. No, please.
Oh dear.
Please. Please. Why?
And now we see that advantage slip away from the side of NightWolve. It's all even. These next 2 rounds could potentially dictate everything. And they choose to replay this site. We have only seen 2 bomb sites this entire map so far, and it's leading us to another potential 4-2 attacking half. NightWolve just choosing the familiarity of the trophy site instead of going from those tertiary sites. It is quite honestly a little bit baffling. They've just been decimated on that site. They've seen Villains get decimated on the same sites, but they don't want to adapt. They're still sure of their ability to win here, and there are a few easy to fix mistakes there. Banquiz threw away his life incredibly early in a very secure position in that closet. He could have played for a lot more utility denials. You have those walls reinforced, and you just have a player like that. You could stop that hard breach, force them to actually take a much more favoured gunfight by vaulting in, but he seems to be peeking the window and died incredibly early. So if you can fix up those early engagement issues inside NightWolve, you could potentially win this round. You already have won this cycle. With the pressure mounting on you and the momentum swinging in favor of it really is going to be a tall order for NightWolve.
Yeah, absolutely. Shinji's putting up a good fight in 10 and 8, but again, it's not really seeing this sort of standout performance like we are seeing over on the other side of Nerd, 12 and 6. Obviously, that does come at the detriment of the score lines of the other players on the team. So, looking at it overall, both of these teams are fairly even, and well, the 5-5 scoreline makes sense. This time, Bankers is not playing in that position, but there's absolutely no one playing for the denial of closet. You do have the angle being watched from Phantom through the bomb site, however, but it's nowhere near as certain as having a player actually in there. The hard breach from Cobra just goes a little bit awry. The new jammer on the wall as well. It's going to make it difficult, going to make it impossible even for that breach to come through until it is cleared, possibly from below, possibly by the EMPs of the Thatcher, but he's only got 1 left in pocket, now none. That EMP does go off. Hopefully the breach can get opened, or otherwise this is just going to be absolute calamity for the attack of Villains. And indeed, I believe that will be that getting shut down, as Eternal does find a pick onto Phantom. Shinji though, C4 with a great response, taking out Cobra. That is going to be the Hibana, and they're not aware of Pika's on that close angle. Finds the kill, brings it back to be in favor, but Eternal shuts it down. Yet again, we're here level. Bankers kills flooding back and forth. The kill feed is a checkerboard of orange and blue here in round 11. There's now 1 minute left to go inside of this round. Shinji aggressing over towards that corner area. There's Eternal and Kian. They're just stuck here inside of the bathroom. They know a Blacklist position. They're able to clear him out as well. 2 versus 2 now. Bankers aggressing towards Astro. Finds the swing, finds the kill. The Fuser drops inside a bathroom. 45 seconds. And Eternal has to try and do it all here in a 1 versus 2 to stop that map point from NightWolve, to possibly have the chance of taking their opponent's map pick. Here in regulation, he finds the first kill. Diffuser not picked up, but Shinji is just waiting on the other side, playing in bricks. Eternal can just get in here through Astro. With the timer continuing to tick down, Shinji just watching the angle. Natano sprays into it and he wins the fight here! 1 versus 2, he gets it done! And that's Villains now, match point, their opponent's map pick, just 1 round away from claiming it for themselves.
I'm going to repeat myself. Oh dear.
Oh dear.
We are looking like we're having a slight tech pause here, a potential lifeline given to NightWolve, but I mean, Villa was just a stock exchange last round. Trades going left and right. So many kills there in just the same spots. That bathroom, a particular hot zone. A lot of players dropping there, a lot of picks, a lot of trades there. It was a great attacking effort there. They were a bit slow getting the wall open, but the guns were just meeting their marks. They seemed to know exactly where the defenders were looking to rotate. A bit of poor intel leading to Keysat's death quite early on there, but they came back. They got those all-important trades, and it was a beautiful 1v2 from Eternal there.
Yeah, so very well played, as it seems like Bankers is back in the lobby, and we should be getting underway any second, and they have indeed gone for that tertiary bomb site. Finally, we're seeing dining and kitchen here in this map. It only took 12 rounds, but we've done it.
Yep, but is it too late? You don't have any chance to fix the mistakes of this tertiary site. You're staring down the barrel of match point, and a map you look so confident in getting that 4-2 attacking split. It was incredible for NightWolve, but they've let that advantage slip away, and things just got worse as Villains now take the advantage 6-5 on, I believe this is NightWolve's map pick.
Indeed it is.
Which is just even worse for their situation here. They're taking a big gamble going on this tertiary site now because they have no experience of how it's been played this entire map. We're seeing Bankers on that pulse, we're seeing the counter being used as well to try and funnel the attack into clearing the bomb, trying to get something with that Banker that doesn't involve you taking a gunfight. Because he's going to slipping away from NightWolve the moment they change sides. Bankers having a bit of trouble with the floor, not sure if it's just hard floor,
think that might be
a little bit tedious there,
I think it's hard floor. That might be where like the bath is, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he's trying to get a nitro cell in there, for at least an avenue for a nitro there, but not free plays. We're seeing 3 nitros on the board here, so it's really reliant on this early.
Oh no.
Oh.
That's unlucky.
That's outside Riho's time span as well, isn't it?
I believe so. So
and that's your pulse as well. The key part of this defense. These nitros are flying blind now.
That's quite possibly the worst player to have disconnect in the situation. You know, Bankers has been fragging pretty well, has been doing a lot of things right. Also, your pulse, a C4 off the board, the intel going away as well. It's, well, made it a lot more difficult for NightWolve. They're a round down on their map pick. It's their match point for their opponents as well. So, well, this vertical is going to be pretty much free to be opened up now by the butt of Nerd and the Sledge Eternal. Peaks does open up that castle barricade. They've recognized that they do need that angle of escape. Blacklist even does throw one out, can't get it done. It's Phantom. These vertical angles just becoming a constant pressure. Bankers does return, can at least sit on cams, make it a bit less of a hindrance, but even still, you know, that pulse going away is going to be massive.
Yeah, 4 versus 5, I guess you could maybe make the time argument. They still have that 6 man count, so this is 5 versus 5.
Ooh.
But an extra pick from Blacklist as well finally evens out the man count, but the attacks have so much ground. They can just keep going with this attack, but Blacklist gets a second, and suddenly NightWolve are back in this. They've let him slip away untraded, and suddenly they've lost a lot of that comfort they had on the top floor. They're forced to go down, take these gunfights, and Blacklist might have just bailed this team out of an unwinnable round here. He's staring down a castle barricade on that bottom Astro. Nerd elsewhere gets a trade, but Phantom, he realizes his time is now. He has to get aggressive on these vertical angles, and Nerd isn't watching. He could potentially get a 3v here. He just slipped by, sees it again, and gets the no! So close, but now they know he needs to rotate the shot. He somehow manages to get away there. Blacklist finally taking down a fantastic round for him. 3 versus 2. Isak gets the pick, and Phantom finally goes down as well. 1 versus 3 for Shinji, potentially to lock out the round for Villains here. They've got no time, but plenty of boys to throw there. Shinji gets one panic going down. He missed the kill. That's Just like that, the comeback of potentially the tournament here, I'd say, is looking incredibly rough. But Villains pull through.
5-2 was the scoreline after round 7. They had 5 rounds, and they still weren't able to. Get it done. That is
5 in a row.
That is ridiculous.
That's rough.
Yeah, indeed it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just a bit speechless there. Fair play to Villains there. It's a very high tension scenario there. You know, you're in that losers bracket. It's your enemy's map pick, and you're down 5-2. So to really gain the strength to come back from that, it's commendable, certainly. But you've got to also point fingers at NightWolve there to really they let that map slip away from them. They had that unwillingness to go to these tertiary sites to test things out. And when they finally did, they were struck with a disconnect. And it was just the nail in the coffin for them there, despite Blacklist's best efforts on that roam.
Yeah, it was almost a perfect storm for Villains there, because Bankers could have had so much impact. And like you mentioned, Blacklist gave it a hell of a go, but you got to hand it round 11, that 1 versus 2 from Eternal. We could be seeing overtime right now.
We're seeing overtime, and, you know, if some of those kills go the way of that vertical game, you know, Phantom was so close killing that buck. We could potentially be seeing a 7-5 on the other side, but NightWolve, they just couldn't get out of that slump. They couldn't halt the momentum of Villains, and they pay the price. 1 map down, Villains on potentially going up to series point on this next map, and NightWolve will be out if Villains win it.
Well, it was a defensive masterclass from neither of these teams. The attack had a grip hold on Villa. So heading over to Chalet, where I believe the favor actually lies with the attack anyway. And indeed it does. About 52% of the rounds won by the attack. We could be in for a hell of a show. Don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss it. We will have, if you just give me a second, we will have Chalet just after this quick break. I'll be right back. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. We've got Chalet. I don't know why I'm saying like that.
You join us for panic stations for NightWolve, I would say. They let a 5-2 round slip away in map 1 of Villa, and now they are going onto Chalet. And well, Villa was already a side of very strong attacking halves, and now we're moving on to Chalet, a map which honestly favors the attack much more than Villa. So it's going to be a really interesting matchup to see which of these two good attacking teams performs better. We saw that Villains got that 5-1 attacking half on Villa, so you would expect them to be performing better here. But NightWolve could have a couple of tricks up their sleeve.
Yeah, they certainly could. Obviously, it does seem to favor Villains pretty heavily looking at this. It's their own map pick. They had a better attacking half on Villa than we saw from NightWolve. God. That we saw from NightWolve. And, well, it all comes down to this. Otherwise, top 6 isn't bad for NightWolve, but top 4 for Villains would be even greater. And let's not forget, you need to get to the top 3 to have any of the prize pool. 1,100 euros up for grabs. Third place gets 110. Second place gets 220. That first place spot, 770 euros going out to the winner of the whole league. It's a lot. It's a heck of a lot of cash, and you want to be winning that.
Certainly. I'm looking at these,
speaking of incentives, like you obviously have the fame and the glory, but money's nice. Money's nice.
Like a little bit in the wallets, but I think to notice about these bans, we're seeing a zombie off the board again, so these teams don't really want to be dealing with Operator, and they're going to be dealing with Solace either. I believe these are the 2 most recent defenders they've added to the game. So it does show that these operators are very strong. They don't want to be dealing with them on this attack, and Flores as well is aimed to potentially neuter some of these attacks, make it a little bit more slow to clear out the map. Flores is so effective at clearing up these various pieces.
Although we said that about Villa.
Oh, we did.
Look what happened.
Osa as well being taken on the board, aimed more at these executes. You can say they don't want to give the attack the sort of security that they should provide. But a notable thing is is unbanned Eternal is immediately on that road. It's very effective on Chalet because of how well that ability combos with the various different back stairs, the various different sites of Chalet. There's always going to be blind spots. Chalet especially, there are a lot of different flanking angles. You're only relying on cameras. Bam, Nook is invisible. You can't see her coming. So she is usually banned a lot, well, in general, but especially on Chalet. And we're seeing the value here. Eternal just getting droned in. There are all cameras here. They're not going to be able to see him if he has that gadget on. They're just clearing out this northern side of the top floor, not encountering any resistance yet until they get to library. Kisak and Key as well back to Eternal there. They put this immediate control on this half of the map.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the one side being defended is Bard Gaming, so you will see a lot of focus on the library upstairs because the vertical control is just so important. Mezzanine as well being helped by the attack Kisak, just denying that Surya gate, making it a bit easier for the attack to have that entry through to that southwestern corner, which means that the pressure is going to be on NightWolve here. As the guns start to ring true, start to find their mark here over on this side, taking out barricades. Hopefully going to be the utility going down in a second as well. We're not seeing any hard breach though from the attack apart from the thermite of Cobra. The Cobra is currently in a completely different area, absolutely nowhere near, which means has to just dip inside. Is finally going to get this wall open, but that's a bit of a time sink for the attack of Villains, making it a bit longer. Kisak does just throw the nade down. I think it was caught by an ADS, and yeah, indeed it was. Shield stays standing. More flashbangs coming through to clear that utility, and a double C4 from Shinji. Absolute landmine from downstairs makes it a very good round all of a sudden for NightWolve. Now 50 seconds left. That is your IQ and your Lion. Good operators, especially later on into the round, taking out that utility. And still we have the shield standing. No frag grenades left in pocket for NightWolve, which for villains even, which means that this shield will stay standing, and Kikas is just going to be able to pop up and find that kill on Kisat, doubling down. 25 seconds, it's now all down to Eternal and Cobra to try and see what they can do.
2 versus 5 on the side of the defense here. Shots ring out from Cobra. Kika's still incredibly low health, but he can just hide behind that shield.
Yeah.
Did not clear that out. And the utility just fumble. He's taking a long-range gunfight against this DMR. Both sides losing health as Cobra. He gets taken down by the ITA. The pistol kill rings out. What a flawless round already taking this off to the side of the defense. So immediately seeing these conventions straight away from yet again an attacker-sided map, and immediately the advantage goes towards that defense.
Yeah, it's a very good round to start things off, not a single kill going the other way. And yeah, technically the streak is broken. We saw 5 rounds in a row from the side of villains, but not 6, because NightWolve once again start things out very well here. In round number 1 on Dark Gaming, they're going to transition up now to that top floor bomb site, mastering off this. And well, there's many different opinions on this bomb site. Obviously, Chalet is, you know, being picked fairly often. I feel like that comes up in conversation a lot, but it's a very popular map. 28 times, including this one, making it the most popular map here in Season 5 so far. And the top floor, I mean, from my last experience of it, which is that Tracker Clan Empire game that I was telling you about in the break, we saw Tracker Clan play here on the defense 4 times and lose here 4 times. So I'm not necessarily holding up hope, but then obviously, you know, different teams, different circumstances. It doesn't necessarily play out the best, but it's all up to strategy here on Villa. I think that on Chalet, I feel like there's a lot less of a consensus about which site's sort of primary, secondary, tertiary, and even quaternary.
Well, the key flaw with this second floor site is that double window and the cutoff it provides. Usually you see teams employing that cutoff just to give themselves a little bit of extra security, and they're not bringing that. Instead, they've got Keeks. He's bringing security by getting that open which usually puts the defense in a better situation, but we're still going to see the problem with Nose Army being, as long as Nose Army doesn't cancel either. Keeks, he's going to be trapped here, playing his life, playing for time, Banquet as well. Likely that he's not going to be able to escape unless he gets a great pick onto the balcony outside. He's just, again, playing for time, playing his life, trying to waste the lockdown to the side of the attack. He's going very passive picks, he's taking out the drones, and he's not really expecting that much help. Keeks can advance because he is also in one of these just essentially guaranteed death positions. Just want to waste time. Banquist gets a great kill. The man count just increases for the side of the defense with gunshots from the pistol, and he manages potentially to pick up his down teammate. The trade opportunity disappears as he just goes back to the library stairs. There was potential for both those members of the defense to swing together to guarantee that kill. That opportunity has, of course, passed now, and we're now on a 4 versus 4.
Twitch Drone does spot out Keeks. He's immediately going to get aggressive, finds a kill onto Key, and might not be aware of Keysat's position, but Keysat's actually rotated through mezzanine, and he's able to at least survive a second longer, but does find the kill in the end. 3 versus 3 now, heading into the final minute. Main breach has been opened up by Cobra, which means that Nerd is going to be able to start to push through. Watch these long angles. Shinji, Blacklist, separated from each other. Phantom is playing with Blacklist, can sort of switch back and forth to give cover to either player, but there's no real way that all these players can triple up, which means that technically you would say that villains could have an advantage in any sort of swing they may want to make, but the diffuser does need to get into the bomb site. Final 30 seconds of the round. Shinji close up with the shotgun on this fluke door. And just watching either way. Cobra does get the swing, gets taken out by the M870. Keysat does find a response. Yet again, it's now equal man count, but Keysat's so low, and there's just very little time here in this situation. Phantom can start to use those toxic base canisters, and that's going to be absolutely deadly as Nerd finds a lot of damage being taken away. Keysat takes down Blacklist, but they might just not be aware of Phantom's position. Doesn't matter. Keysat with 4, even on low HP, is able to get it done here. Round number 2 goes away of villains. We're tied up 1-1.
the problems with the defense there really come down to a lack of coordination by that library. There were two members there in a 2 versus 1, but the swing didn't come out for Keeks. He just valued his life more, valued his position. He didn't swing into library, and the 1v1 goes away with the attack, and that just domino effect. They pick up the other attacker, where brings the man count in favor of the attack now, 4 versus 3. There is a good pick on the side of the defense, evening it out, but still there's a lot of back control for the attack to get that wall open, and with no significant advantage in terms of body count, the villains just get in, they start getting that plant down, they have good post plant positions, and it doesn't even get down because we saw, I believe it was Kisat on the arm just getting those 4 picks through that round. Great play from Kisat, good initiative, taking those aggressive fights when he really had to. He's playing in that technical balance because this other player was trying to get him out. So very good initiative shown by Kisat, going for those aggressive picks, and it works out wonders.
Yeah, for sure, making it a very successful round there for Villains. So like I said, highest 1-1. And now we need to try and find a response. We are going up to this top floor again, and I'm slightly worried that we might see a similar pattern emerge on Villa. Kisat finding the first, taking out Bankers, who we saw be taken out quite early a lot of the time on Villa, especially on those defenses, and particularly the ones that Villains were actually able to win. Seeing a repeated bomb fight and similar issues again and again, but this time it just gets worse as Kikas now finds himself downed as well. Could potentially be a 5 versus 3, and indeed Eternal does find a collection, kills Blacklist through the barricade. A beautiful wall bang there, and it just goes from bad to worse. NightWolve within the first minute has lost over half of their players. It's stalled down now to Shinji and Phantom, 2 versus 5 to try and hold on.
Shotgun builds, and Shinji barely lives to see another minute. Taken so low by that fracking capability, so hindered by the M7. Phantom not as much, he has the SMG sinks, he gets a pivot to Kian. 4 versus 2, Shinji with the shotgun, 3 versus 2. It could very much be doable now for NightWolves. They're holding these tight angles with these weapons, playing to their advantages, and Nerd goes down incredibly low. Suddenly, NightWolves are back into this. Phantom playing aggressive on this door window. He knows he has to get this pick. If they get rid of that cutoff, it's suddenly much more winnable for the defense, but he can't swing too aggressively. He has to pick this fight carefully. Wait for the Zofia to show herself and get that kill, because if you're caught off guard, you will die from that position. The Zofia has the better gun, the better angle. In terms of angles, obviously, she can head glitch, see your feet, you can't see much of her, and it's all up to Phantom to make this correct read. Wait for Nerd to focus on Shinji and then swing. And Shinji, he's playing very passively on the piano. Again, hindered by the shotgun, and Phantom goes down suddenly. This Cinderella story of a round looks like it's ending, and Villains close it out in a bit closer fashion than we'd maybe expect, given that start to the round.
Yeah, 3 versus 2, though. Making it 3 versus 0, still pretty good. Only losing 2 players on the attack there. We're going to go back down to Bar Gaming. Obviously, we saw NightWolve win this one out. And, I mean, after this round, if we go to top floor again, these teams, they don't seem to be learning. Obviously, this was a site that was won. It seems to be the primary. We cannot harp on them too much for going here again. But it's just after this round what happens that I will be potentially annoyed at seeing. Obviously, that's in the future. We can only worry about what's in the present. So let's have a look at this defensive composition here, Joe. I'm liking the look of it. Capcan, Frost, and you've got some Mira action, which Mira's very strong on this site specifically.
It's, I believe, identical composition to that first round, and although they did a great job in that first round, you have to point the finger at the side of Villains for that round, because they just misplayed their utility. Part of the reason NightWolve got that incredible flawless round to begin with is because they had nades and flashbangs, but nothing could destroy that shield. It was really quite baffling. We saw a grenade explode what looked to be right next to it. The shield remained standing, and that causes this avalanche of other things. The shield causes a bit of static play from the attackers. They don't really know what to do. Shinji takes advantage, gets the double kill with the nitro, but you can't rely on the mistakes of your opponent. So we're going to need to see the defense maybe get a bit more proactive this time, because ultimately you have to be the one to be consistently winning these rounds. You can't just rely on them losing them. So we would like to see NightWolve getting a bit more aggressive, maybe trying to negotiate for an opening pick on these more aggressive angles. Don't give the attackers much free map control, because you want to be hindering their pace, want to be delaying that execute for as long as possible. So just a little bit of opposition on that north side could do wonders for this defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, we've certainly seen a decent start. There's not too much early pressure, but it means that all of the defending players stay safe. And, well, that might honestly be the best policy. We saw that quick explosive start in the previous round, and look how well it turned out for them. So in the 5 versus 5, we're heading over to this halfway mark as it's just map control being gained over towards the northeastern part of the map. And Bankers is downstairs, Blacklist even is downstairs, could possibly get a flank on here. Just sneaking up through Solar, missed the opportunity on Kian, but it's just sneaking across this top floor now. And this will be the question, whether they've got any players on those flank drones. It seems like everyone has their guns up. Keysat does hop on a drone, but not spotted out. Blacklist could get an absolute freebie here. Finds one, finds a second as well. Taking out Keysat and Cobra to boot. And that's calamity for Villains, and Shinji doubling down, making it a 2 versus 5, but this time going the complete other way. NightWolve respond in kind with a 5v2 of their own, and look at the timer. They're still aware that there's players on this top floor. They don't have any sort of positioning. Nerd does finally find the trade, but it seems like just a distraction, playing his life there just to find those kills as Bankers takes out Nerd. That's the Aruni from the top floor, just getting that kill. And Eternal wins a gunfight onto Keeks, but taken down very low for his troubles and can't find that kill. It's Shinji to close things out here. NightWolves, they bring us up level 2 to 2, and this is that question now. Where do they play us?
Another successful attacking win there. They fixed their mistake of last time, a defensive win even. They fixed their mistake of getting that shield, but they have nothing to stop the flank, and Blacklist takes advantage of that. He sees an opening in that attack and he takes it. He gets that beautiful 2-piece, and he still survives decently long enough to be a good enough distraction, good enough waste of time. And all of that just leads to this very strong defensive win here. But as you said, it's where they go next, and from the looks of those silhouettes, we are going down to Kitchen. A change, a tertiary site we're seeing for the second time in 2 maps now. So we are seeing NightWolve identify their mistake of their defense, and they want to try something else. They want to just try something new, not repeat their same mistakes. They're bringing that mirror again, the mute again, the smoke, the castle, the Jaeger, operators that have seen them have success elsewhere, hoping that it works just as well this time. The mirror especially is going to be a big point for this defense. Where those mirrors go could completely dictate the attack here, because the attacking teams just don't want to face them down. We saw in Villa they were avoiding these avenues as much as possible. So Keeks, he's going to want to try and control the flow of the attackers here. We have one on site just looking over, presumably for some kind of plant denial, maybe giving that to your smoke on mute. But with another one in pocket, it's going to be interesting to see where he puts it with 20 seconds off the round. Perhaps just waiting for a call on where the attack's coming from, trying to have more of a dynamic site setup across the map. But
you don't want to leave it too late.
Yeah, when too much time goes by and the attack have enough map control, you're suddenly a lot more vulnerable going to put that mirror down.
Yeah, so again, slightly questionable decision from the defense. They've got some top floor presence, but really they're playing quite far back. They're not looking to be that aggressive over towards the entry. As I say that, actually Shinji is just on the window with a shotgun, so maybe don't listen to me all the time, but you do have Office just completely given up to the attack for free, meaning that Kian can just get in here with the Bucks, just start opening up those floorboards and completely denying the defenders that B bomb site.
And we're seeing 4 smoke grenades being brought here. The Brava as well, we didn't mention, not seen that much use out of that gadget yet here. I've not seen if anything's been hacked, but the smoke grenades alone are going to be very important here because the defense have opted against picking a warden. There's no bulletproof cameras, there's no maestro, so they could potentially get a very easy plant here. And with these vertical angles above, it forces the defense to get aggressive, to push past those smokes, and they could potentially just be cut down from a vertical angle through the floor. This execute can come incredibly early, and
Have
I
you
think
seen
there's
those
a double
windows?
mirror setup on that wall.
Interesting, peculiar.
Is that to circumvent the Azami thing, so you just have a bit of bulletproof cover there?
I guess, and it still provides them an angle they can also shoot through, and yeah, it's pretty good, but we're seeing the smoke grenades start to come through. That entire position denied away now. With Shinji and the other player as well on the top floor looking to retake. It's going to be the swing with the SMG-11. Finds Kian. Bankers is assisting. Shotgun on the window. Keysat does take down Keeks, but the shots aren't able to come through. Diffuser planted. Phantom taking out Keysat. So it's a 4 versus 3 for the defense, but they have to get their asses into gear because the timer continuing to tick down. This time it's not at their advantage. And Shinji takes out another, so top floor completely destroyed, and Phantom taking out Cobra. Bankers as well finding Nerd. The complete successful retake, just completely flooding the rest of the map and narrowing down on those attackers. They took 2v1s pretty much everywhere they could, and it's worked out for them.
And it was looking to be a good round from Villains. There are good post-plant positions. That wall being open especially is crucial for the attack, and getting the case down, it looked to be good positions, but as you said, the defense, knowing their man advantage's value, they're always taking the 2v1, so even if they did lose a gunfight, it result in a trade, but they just won every gunfight anyway, so very good response from NightWolves, a good retake there, and it puts them in the advantage on the defense, which is something we maybe wouldn't expect coming into Shallow.
Yeah, absolutely. It's made it a bit difficult, but we're seeing not a losing defensive half, and I'm seeing a clash as well. This is to me, a very console setup that we're seeing from NightWolve. You know, we're bringing along the Thunderbird, which is kind of a staple of the console scene. You don't really see a retool over on the sort of PC leagues where we're sort of used to. They're fully reinforcing car garage. I've seen your eyes narrow. Yeah, it's an interesting strategy
invested there.
Yeah, they're very much anticipating this sort of northern clear, and they've kind of ignored this main breach, which Cobra could just get open. This plant could go down completely uncontested if NightWolve aren't ready for it. Keeks is possibly still AFK. No, just still standing still.
Like that a bit.
The Thunderbird gadget's not placed. Okay, now starting to get into action.
Very weird round.
I think the Villains have kind of missed a bit of a trick here. They obviously have a fuse, which means that they are going to be able to get that vertical pressure. You see the fuse playing on mezzanine. Can get some quite nice angles with the cluster charges completely just raining hell onto the bomb site down below. But yeah, I think they've kind of missed a trick there. They possibly could have even got a plant off before NightWolve were even aware of it, because now they've rotated the clash round all the way to this breach, going to make it almost impossible to actually play through there. So we start to see those cluster charges ring true. They're just going to be making it very difficult to actually play on the bomb site, open up that vertical, open up, and just get the cluster charges and get those pucks down into the site and just wreak absolute havoc.
Yeah, I love that usage for the fuse there. Anyone who doesn't know, the pellets aren't really used to get kills there. They're just using this widespread sort of soft breach charge to open up a lot of angles onto the defense and just make them feel very uncomfortable throughout their entire time on site. It's obviously not going to affect Banquist too much on that clash. He does have a bit of top cover on that shield, but the other defenders aren't so lucky. So we're seeing them playing very spread out here. They're going to be holding these long cross angles, and especially for a character like Warden, and he's playing with that shotgun especially, it's going to be more difficult for him, but Blacklist gets a good opening pick on the Jaeger very late into the round, so the defense has done a good job keeping themselves alive and even getting man count advantage on top of that.
Kian is going to go down for the shot, gets taken out as well. Nerd does trade, taking out Bankers. That's your Clash gone down. And Eternal finds another, taking out Blacklist. That's a Jaeger that's found the 2 picks in this round for the defense. So 45 seconds, we're equal, and Cobra finds 1. Now, the advantage starting to swing the other way. Villains looking like they're in a good position here, as now it's just Shinji left in a 1 versus 3. The Overwatch coming through from Eternal on those blue stairs. Shinji cannot do anything to deny this plant, as Cobra's going to stick it, get well out of dodge there on the breach, and this is just going to be very difficult. Caught sprinting up the hallway. A 3-3 half here on Villa. I mean, not here on Villa, here on Chalet. French
Villa's still rent-free in your head, isn't it?
It is. I'm still mad. I'm still angry.
Yeah, we are seeing something slightly different here. Even half, not the absolute worst for Villains, although you would maybe sometimes kind of favor them in a 4-2 advantage on their attack, it being Chalet. But with the bans such as like the Flores, the ESA, you could give them a bit of leniency. 3-3 still nothing to be mad at, and it's really going to be a case of how that momentum that they've just started bleeds over to their defense, because we saw this as a team that was very sort of momentum focused last round. They went on quite a big losing streak, and then they won 5 in a row. So it's going to be a case of whether or not NightWolve let them get any momentum at all, or if they just win this round. And if NightWolve do lose this round and Villains take it, then it's going to be, I'm intrigued to see if they can keep it going, keep the ball rolling, because when Villains were on, they looked unstoppable on Villa. You know, when they were getting these opening picks, they were getting these great trades. It was really just good siege from them. But when they were off, they were just stumbling at every hurdle, it seems. So we need to see if NightWolve can bring the difficulty that they were bringing in that first half of Villa, because if it's, you know, the second half NightWolve that shows up, then it's looking quite dire for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, attack does sort of have that advantage, like we were saying before, so we might get Cafe here. Each team possibly fumbling the bag on their own map pick. Obviously, we're a very long way away from that just yet. Because we still have an entire half ahead of us, maybe. And I would give an advantage to Villains, just because they've seemed like they've been on pretty good form throughout this entire series to actually be able to win it out here. But Bankers is going to find the first pick, taken out Eternal, and immediately a 5 versus 4 as we head into the second minute of the action phase. My brain has gone blank. I'm very sorry.
Yeah, you could. Well, the Mirror isn't the worst opening pick. You do lose a Nitro, but hopefully he's put both of his windows down within prep phase, and we saw something slightly different from Mirror on the previous half. And well, he just wants to keep that mana advantage going, takes out Kian, and now 3 versus 5 in favor of the attack. NightWolve has started this half on fire on this same site, which gave they saw such great success on their defending rounds here. That Flawless, especially round 1, they're looking like they want to start this half off the same way. Cobra, forced back in the site. Nerd is kind of trapped alone on Kitchen. Keysat, probably the safest out of all of those defenders. Frostmark gets taken out by Keeks, saving his teammate on the jump in, and the attacker got so much control here. There's no pressure really at all up here. No Nitro cells to speak of. Complete unrivaled top floor control, and they can just safely open up these angles, prepare for this execute with over 50 seconds left. They're on great pace to win this. Cobra does get a pick onto Shinji, but it's still 4 versus 3.
That's Diffuser down, so it's just going to take a little bit of time to reclaim that. This vertical angle working out quite well for the Jaeger of Cobra. So 3 versus 3. And the time is starting to tick down. Nerd's still off-site as well. Could potentially find either a late-round flank or just a cheeky angle here, and indeed takes down Blacklist. It's now being brought to a 3 versus 3 here, Joe. There's a timer continuing to tick down. This could actually spell panic stations for NightWolve. The drop comes through. Cobra is actually not going to be able to find it. Does collect instead. Actually, it's Keysat who finds 2 on the bomb site. Gets taken down by Keeks. It's now a 1 versus 1. It'd be a 1v2, and he gets it. Keeks with a clutch, and that's another 1 versus 2 we're seeing coming out. This time, NightWolve not on the receiving end, and they get the lead here on Chalet yet again as round number 7 goes their way.
And it was a good start from NightWolve on that attack, but they really weren't leveraging that man count advantage to their favor. They didn't drone first off. Nerd was just allowed to sit in kitchen, getting that very deep angle onto the stairs. And these other picks, they weren't pushing together. They were giving 1v1s to the side of villains, and they were most part winning that. Ultimately, it comes down to that 1v2, and then it's villains who don't properly play that man count advantage, which leads to the 1v2 from Keeks. A great round win there, keeping NightWolve in it, not letting villains build any momentum there. It was kind of a must-win round, I'd say, for NightWolve there, just to stop it from snowballing away, because we saw how deadly villains were once they got a bit of momentum in bit of wind in their sails, you could say. So it was and winning it in that fashion, especially Keeks getting that 1 versus 2, it's sure to bring up the morale of NightWolve and potentially lower the morale of villains there. It's a round they should have won. They maybe aren't too mad because it looked like it wasn't going their way, but to come so close to bringing back that 5 versus 3 just for it to be snatched away by Keeks, it can't be great for the mental for the team.
Yeah, it's not going to be great. They're going back, and, well, hopefully they don't repeat the same mistakes twice. I mean, Keysat did a really good job finding those 2 picks in that 3 versus 3 to even get it close, and, well, going to be feeling slightly robbed there. Maybe not the entire team, but Keysat will certainly be feeling like they wanted to. Well, I mean, obviously they wanted to win it, but certainly feeling like they had that in the bag. The 1v2 though from Keeks, like we said, comes through, and that's another player on 8 kills for NightWolve, tied up with Shinji, seeing 9 on the other side for Keysat, and then no one else really comes close. So NightWolve is certainly doing well in that regard, and that a minute has gone by, and we've seen the attack with a lot of pressure, and, well, 2 kills immediately off the back of it. A team kill, though, as Shinji goes down. That's your Thatcher. Only used one of the EMPs, if I'm not mistaken. So 3 versus 4 now, possibly a lifeline being tossed to villains here inside of round number 8. Keysat is still floating around on that northeastern side as well. Could possibly find a bit of a backstab, as it's now only the 2 players left on the bomb site, Returnal and Nerd. Actually, Nerd is down below, which means there's only 1 player left. Keysat is going to have to find purchase with this flank, going to have to probably find 2 picks for it to be worth it. And then it becomes a 2 versus 2 on the bomb side itself. First kill goes away of Keysat. Keeks goes down, but now they're aware of his position. A lovely take onto Blacklist. And you've still got the other player who falls as well. Phantom goes down. Keysat, the savior of this round. Bankers is still alive though, taking out Nerd, makes it a 2v1. 50 seconds is plenty of time with Diffuser surrendered and 2 players with their guns up ahead of him. Just doesn't look possible for Bankers to be able to win this. We should be going 4-4, and indeed we are. Eternal shuts it down. Down. Perfect. I can't speak.
That's a real critical blunder from the side of NightWolve there. They had a dead player. They don't have the excuse of villains when they were attacking the site where all of them were alive, so that flank came off. They had a dead player on drones, but the right flank cam just not being watched, it allowed Keysat to slink in, get 1, and then it was just brilliant gun skill from there on out, getting 2 more picks. I would like to commend that Thatcher play, because it's just something we don't see that often. A lot of teams, although how obvious it seems of, it's the operator with a great big grenade that disables everything, a lot of teams just see Thatcher as this one-dimensional wall-opening operator.
Yeah, for sure.
So it kind of, it escapes your mind that, it has so many other uses. So I've seen that in previous matches where the Thatcher's being used to completely eradicate all of that utility. So it was a great nade kill there. Thatcher then, of course, is rewarded for this brilliant play with a bullet to the skull by his teammate. So again, it was another mistake from NightWolve that kind of just cost them another round they should have won there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not necessarily the best sort of play from them. However, who knows? We could see another round come through here for either side. It's been kind of back and forth. And Kitchen Dining up next.
Yeah, and we're seeing this very smoke flash focused execute setup here. We've got Shinjin like Ying, the Brava for the hacking of the cameras. Ying brings the smokes as well,
especially for the Maestro.
Flashes as well. So yeah, you do see the Maestro, which you think, okay, well maybe that does counter this push, but NightWolve, they've thought of that. They bring that Brava to try and at least disable those cameras, if not, maybe even use them against the defenders. But the Warden is going to provide a completely different task, though. You can't hack his glasses as of yet. Don't know if Ubisoft
really
ever intend on doing that. But
that'd be really funny.
That would be incredibly funny. But right now, they need to deal with KeySat on that operator if they want this execute to come through. Of course, speaking of these unconventional Thatcher uses, you could lob an EMP nade in there, disable those glasses, but you face the risk of it being zapped by an ADS, so they might opt away from doing that. They might just use 3 EMPs early in the round anyway, but there is potential counterplay from the side of NightWolve if they want this kind of cheeky smoke flash execute to come through.
Yeah, absolutely, especially if they're using those smokes and flashes to actually deny ADSs first before you have Candelas coming in, before you have the actual execute. The EMP could find its way to sail on right through, take down the glasses of the Warden, who is playing at the back over by those solarium stairs, which is going to make it very difficult for the attack to actually reach him in that position, just with those long lines of sight. Is going to be pressuring. Kian goes for the swing onto the library corridor, but only gets a bit of damage in return. Nothing actually dealt onto any of the NightWolve players, so they are going to be in a much better position. However, with 2 minutes of the action phase gone already, it means that they've kind of stalled out a little bit here. So they're gearing up for that final execute in a 5 versus 5 here, Joe. I'm not entirely sure how well they did to actually find the Maestro cams, and well, it's certainly not worked out as Nerd swings, finds 2. The planter went down, Keek's now downed as well, and it's all just falling apart for NightWolve. Banker's the last player alive, and 1 versus 5. Could be a flawless round here for Villains, and they would certainly be well on their way to claim this series in a 2-0. And well, let's just remind everyone that NightWolves looked like they were going to take Villa. They were actually predicted to win by the community vote. Nearly 60% of people thought it was going to go their way, and well, it just doesn't seem to be like that so far. So we have 5 rounds now for Villains here on Chalet. They're in the advantage yet again.
Yeah, and they really, as you said, just stalled out there. There was a bit of vertical pressure being applied by the attack, but they just chose to mainly ignore that and go for a Ying push. But critically there was no smoke grenades. They just Ying Kandala'd, and that allowed the Maestro, not even on his drone, just with his gun up, to kill 2. Kill that planter as well. It was a very sloppy execute because they just didn't use all the utility they should have. And well, now NightWolve seem to be doubling down on this. They're bringing the glass. Gridlock presumably has smoke grenades. Ying as well. They're mad that their little execute there didn't work, and they're just doubling down on it. They want to bring even more utility, just hound the defense. But once again, they've read into it. They bring the Maestro, the Warden, and with no Brava, no Thatcher to really counter that intel, it's going to favor the defense even more here.
Yeah, you have Glass, Gridlock. Maybe the Glass to try and counter the Warden a little bit, but I think Warden is still favored in that situation. I reckon Shinji probably would be playing. Well, there's the Warden dealt with, I guess. KeySat, unfortunate disconnection. I'm not entirely sure on the rules for that one, so do just bear with us while we try and navigate this. As far as I'm aware, we will try and play the round, but yeah. Who knows? It might end up being replayed at the end of things. We're not admins, so we'll just wait for the final decision to come through there. But looking at the round instead, Solarium, high amount of pressure here for NightWolve. They are just looking towards it. You've got Keeps on the Gridlock, early pressure. Eternal did think about pressuring it, was aggressive on those windows, but just decides against it. And it seems like we might have a bit of a rush coming through. Smoke grenades, Candelas, all going to come in, and the diffuser's starting to get planted. Eternal is going to do a bit of damage, and actually it's Nerd to take down Bankers. That's now diffuser surrendered in the middle of the bomb site. And this could actually go quite south for NightWolve, especially now that Shinji's been taken down by Cobra as well on the downstairs. They're going to have to scramble to regain control of this diffuser, scramble to regain this man advantage, because as it stands, they're just straight up losing here.
Yeah, it was a very risky push there from NightWolve, and a risk they really didn't need to take. They're given that free man advantage, and they pay for it. They no longer have diffuser control. They lose those two most important operators for the execute, the Ying and Glaz taken down, and it's up to the remaining 3 attackers to try and carve out this round here, but they're so split up, and with no direct access to the diffuser, it's going to be even more difficult. Keeks gets a good pick onto Cobra. That's a good start. It's now 3 versus 3, but you still have that Aldo ready to sing the moment it sees you. Frostmats as well and ADSs. There's so much for the attack to look out for here to divert their attention. It's going to be a Herculean task to retrieve that diffuser, so they're likely identifying their new win condition as kills. It's no longer a plant-based attack. They are purely trying to just kill every one of these defenders, and these gunfights aren't going to favor them. They're walking into angles that the defense can just hold here. Nerd gets aggressive with the owl. There seems to want a second. Keek shuts him down. 2 versus 1. Eternal takes it, and match point, series point for villains here, I believe.
Indeed it is, and they get one step closer to that lower bracket semi-final next week against the winner of the intra-brand matchup of MVG UK versus MVG Germany. We are just going to get a little pause coming through here as yeah, the timeout comes through, and then if that still doesn't happen, then we'll take a pause after that, so you get to see our beautiful faces again.
Hello.
Hooray!
And I mean, that's going to be a great momentum builder for the side of villains there. You know, you seem like you've had a round stolen away from you, but you just win it anyway.
Yeah.
4 versus 5. NightWolve's opting in for that weird Glaz push with no real plant cover. I'm not sure if Ying was planning in the right area, because it seemed like Glaz made no attempt to kill that Maestro who denied the plant. So it was a strange execute. It seems like perhaps the angles weren't quite working out in favor of the attack, and it just led to them losing a round that they should have won. And you've got to ask questions. If you have that man advantage, why not just tailor make your attack to accommodate for that? Play for trades, play for 2v1s. You can afford to lose some players in these trades because you've been gifted on a silver platter that one man advantage because of the unfortunate disconnect. But NightWolve, they just don't want to adapt. They're sticking to the book, sticking to the strat, and they lose it. And now they're staring down the barrel of map and series and, well, tournament point. They lose this next round, they're out. No money for them.
Yeah, and they don't get to play in ESA, obviously, Season 6, whether it does happen. You know, they still do get that chance. But, you know, for the foreseeable future, that's going to be them out of it if they're not able to win this round. And even then, you know, you get 6-5, and then you have overtime potentially. And then even if they win here on Chalet, you've got Cafe Dostoyevsky to play instead.
Yeah,
I mean, just losing that first map, especially on your own map pick, is such a barrier to success in this situation.
And it's just getting worse. You know, you've lost that 5-2 advantage in terms of rounds, and then you lose a 5 versus 4 here. It's all these little unfortunate events have got to be compounding in the minds of the players there. And I can't imagine the vibes are that high, to be honest, in the NightWolve camp, when they've been given opportunity after opportunity to put up rounds on the board, to even win maps, but they just can't find it. Villains seem to always have that response, and these rounds just elude them.
Yeah, and I don't know whether this little break will be a help or a hindrance for NightWolve. You know, it possibly gives them some time to take a breather, have a little think about things, but at the same time, that might just be the opposite of what they need. You know, maybe arguments. I don't necessarily want to suggest that their team composition is that bad, but, you know, possibly disagreements. We've seen it not going well, and maybe just this irritation of having to pause is just you know, is just going to get under their skin a little bit more. Obviously, it is. We do have confirmation, just a little bit of a Wi-Fi issue, just to try and sort through. So that's going to go on behind the scenes. And yeah, just, you know, thinking about this Chalet, just want to hear it from you now. Do we see Cafe Dostoyevsky?
No, absolutely not. After that last round, I'm all
Yeah.
for like miracles, but it's just not possible. I'm gonna say it right now. It's not possible to
Yeah.
come back from that. You're given a free round on the attack, and you just mess it up. If I wasn't on stream, I'd be using a bit harsher language because it was a massive misplay from the attack there, and they're now paying for it with a map point, series point, tournament point, whatever you want to call it. It's an L. They're staring at a great big L, and it's about to hit them. There's just no way that Villains mess this up. There's no way it goes to Cafe. Villains, this is their map pick. They're up by 2 rounds. They've got more than enough chances to employ these strats on a map they're very comfortable with against a NightWolve side that has looked clueless with these attacks. So, yeah, it's not going to Cafe. I hate to break it to everyone. It's not, and you can hold me to my word there. It's not going to Cafe. It's just not.
Well, we are having the hopefully it will be progressing quite quickly, so I don't want to go to another break because like last time, and indeed Kisat has indeed returned as I'm saying this, so we will just give it another few seconds just to fully load into the lobby, and then we will be underway for round number 11. We're going back to Bar Gaming here, Joe, which we saw. I mean, we've seen it be a very successful defensive site. Obviously, I think we did see it lost from a 1 versus 2 that previous time. But apart from that, we've seen all pretty good defensive, including Bar Gaming. We've seen be won out here by Villains as well. So, yeah, sure, they lost it their first time, but they've been able to bring it back. They will be... I mean, this just favors them, doesn't it? This just favors Villains.
I guess to give NightWolve a bit of, not credit, a bit of hope here. These defensive rounds on Bar Gaming, 2 of them have been won off of very confident flanks and very egregious flanks in the defense that just haven't been noticed. So you just contribute a little bit of utility to flank watch. Suddenly the defense might have a bit of a harsher time here because the attack have got off to good starts. They've just always been caught by various things, whether it be a shield that isn't destroyed or a flank. So if the attack can just deal with those few details, iron out just that 1 or 2 points of this map that have been causing a lot of congestion, then they could still get away with a very quick pace, clear that library very quickly, and they're still in it. That being said, I mean, just with all the circumstances that have hit NightWolve over this series, I don't think they can, and I don't want to sound negative. I don't want to
otherwise Chamberlain will be
Sham's gonna kill me for saying this, but I just have to say it how it is. It's not been a good defensive half from NightWolve, and their only round 1 has been off the back of that 1 versus 2.
Yeah, places to be improved. And for Villains, they've been doing pretty well. We have seen them get a little bit maybe tetchy, you could call it. Just possibly being a little bit too eager when they get into those man advantage situations. But the gun skill has made up for it. We've seen some brilliant flanks from players like Kisat, who's not actually going for that sort of play yet inside of this round. I feel like NightWolve might expect it a bit, but he is going to rotate up that mezzanine, going to give a little bit of support to Cobra, who's playing on that side of things, but does get taken down by Shinji. Makes it a 4 versus 5 as NightWolve have this advantage. And that's the Warden being taken out by a Candela. So not entirely sure how I should feel about that one, but Kisat got back into the lobby pretty much immediately dead. Opening death. Blacklist does try and aggress onto Cobra, and that's going to be misguided attempt. Gets taken down. 4 versus 4 now. 1 minute remaining, and the attack just grind to a halt. It's not looking very motivated. Not quite not motivated, but they're certainly taking their time. Shinji is the one that has to do it all. Finds another pick as Phantom not quite able to land the shot onto Cobra, who just dips away back to the bomb site. Might be able to get away completely scot-free. Indeed does. Gets back to safety, or at least a little bit of safe harbor. Eternal might find the swing onto Bankers, but no, gets shut down. And well, NightWolve might just be offered a little bit of a lifeline here. So C4 rings out, but nothing found from it. Cobra now being challenged from the hatch, does down 1, but taken out by Banquers from across the bomb site. Kia now 1 versus 4. Does find 1, finds 2 all of a sudden from these blue stairs. And now it looks slightly more possible, especially with only 8 seconds left on the clock. Diffuser's having to get planted straight away. Kikas is on this blue stairs, and diffuser now planted. This round is over. We should be going to all 12 here as NightWolve. They find their 5th. As Kikas not locks it out.
A good attempt from Kane there. He gets those 2 picks, and
yeah,
I'm not sure if you knew this, but we certainly did. That Thatcher was incredibly low. Shinji on 1 HP, so you really only had to win the fight against the gridlock, and as if things couldn't get even more tense, once again, a player from Villains is disconnected. So, once again, we're going to have to go to a tech pause, I believe, here. Just edge of your seat stuff here for both of these teams. That pause did seem to help NightWolve a bit, but we've entered the round. Have they used up their one rehost? They're not allowed.
I guess so. It seems like we will be continuing with this, and that is again NightWolve. They get a lifeline. It was a similar sort of story, but for Villains over on Villa.
Well, I mean, on the bright side for Villains here, A, they're 6-5 up. B, they've already won a map. And C, the last time they were in a 4v5, they completely stomped NightWolve. So, still very much doable here. But 4v5, you're still playing from a disadvantage to begin with. You're going to have to potentially go for some of these hero plays to even up that man count. Play more risky, and with risky plays, of course, comes that inherent risk. You could get shut down going for them quite easily by the attack. So it's a balancing act for the defense. Do they want to play for time, maybe really utilize that 6th man, the clock, or do they want to get aggressive, play for kills, make that their win condition? And from the looks of things with the Frost, the Castle, the Maestro, it looks like they're maybe going to go towards time here.
Yeah, and we're seeing from NightWolve, hopefully not a return to that form of going for something risky when you're in that advantage, because you can very easily throw it away by going for a gamble in a 5 versus 4. As we do see now, we have Keysat back in the lobby, can at least sit on cams, give that information back to his teammates, but by far the highest fragger on the side of Villains, which means it's going to be very, very difficult for them to actually find success here. Nerd, though, does take down Blacklist, making it a 4 versus 4, and it seems like there's no response, no trade coming through from NightWolve, which means that we're pretty much now level. It's like that never happened. It's like the disconnect never happened. It's just a 1-for-1 trade in the early round, possibly. And, well, NightWolve, they're certainly going to be annoyed about that one. They possibly could have had opportunity to get that trade. Top floor pressure continuing from this attack just to try and root out these positions. All but one of the defenders are up here on the top floor. Shinji does find one. The Candelas, no, just a regular flashbang even ringing true as Keeks finds another one to Cobra. Eternal playing his life up here on the top floor, but well, it's only down to Nerd now as Shinji takes out the Frost upstairs. 1 minute left to hold on. It's going to be a very difficult one, especially with barbed wire on the Maestro. I mean, sure, why not?
Nerd's stuck in this 1 versus 3. He certainly has the gun for it. He has the ammo count for it. His teammates can be giving intel with those Maestro cams, but from the looks of things, they're all on his POV. They want to see the clutch themselves in the flesh, and they're not going to see anything because Shinji takes him down from that hatch angle, or from the vertical angle made, I believe, by the defense themselves. And I'd like to amend my claim. Villains, if this doesn't go to cafe, if Villains don't continually keep having a disconnect, right? So no one come at me. My claim is still very much correct. This is not going to cafe if we're playing 5v5. Unfortunately for Villains, however, one of their members' ISP begs to differ. So I'll let the chat fill that in. You can put in your least favorite ISP in the blank there, and you can have a right good time raging at them. But the fact of the matter is, Villains have continually now been at a disadvantage 2 rounds on their defenses, and it's led to overtime 6-6, the first OT of this series. It very much looked like the last map could go, but NightWolves it slipped away from them, so it really is crunch time now.
Yeah, back on their attacks are Villains, and one thing to mention is that, well, Kisat is their best performing player for Villains, so hopefully can stay in the lobby a little bit longer this time to have that full value inside of the round number 13 as well. Something I didn't think we'd be saying, especially when we get that 6-4, but overtime.
Yep, overtime indeed. NightWolve on the defense this time, so Villains, they have a chance to use those attacks once again that they did find some success on. It was 2-3-3 halves. We're seeing that Twitch being brought in and the Thatcher, so Villains maybe taking a page out of NightWolve's book here, trying to clear out that shield on Library Stairs very early, using the EMP, using the nades. Hopefully Kian doesn't get killed by his teammate after that, but we'll have to see. Very early pressure once again coming from this north side, as we've seen basically all of these defenses. No roaming presence at all on Master or Office. They are quite content giving the attack that space and choosing to fight their battles on this mezzanine area, library corridor. They know where these fights are going to happen. They know that well. They don't want to stray too far away from these strats. Blacklist, however, is lurking in kitchen here, and it'll be a very in basement even, I believe. I thought we were going to see very early engagement, but no, he's deep in that lurk, potentially setting up for a flank, but surely lightning doesn't strike twice for Nightwolves.
Well, they at least find the first Cobra going down. It might be able to be recollected. It was just those feet angles opened by the Rooney of Bankers was able to find that. The hard breach was opened up, but it's Blacklist who finds the first kill, taking out Kisat and Shinji. C4 finding a tunnel. It's falling apart for Villains yet again. And NightWolve, now they're in the situation we've seen 2-3-3 halves, so there's not necessarily a favor you could give them, but in the 5 versus 3, they seem to be doing pretty well for themselves. Bankers just playing aggressive here in the library, knows that with this advantage he can possibly play his life a little bit. If he can take down Nerd, it's even better, but with on such low HP, it's going to be a very difficult task, just dipping and weaving in between those library bookcases. And well, the onus is on the rest of the team to actually find some aggression, because Key and Cobra are just sitting back. Shinji challenging from those mezzanine stairs all the way through to Cobra's position inside of the office. Nerd holding an angle as well, so it's Kian that has to try and get aggressive, has to find something, and takes down Blacklist inside a mudroom. Shinji's holding an angle, just waiting for the kill to come through, and indeed finds it, but Nerd finds one elsewhere on the top floor, which makes it a 3 versus 2. Infinitely more doable, especially now looking at the health of Shinji in this situation. 20 seconds left, though, is the main worry, and Cobra gets taken down. Nerd left in a 1 versus 3, makes it a 1 versus 2 almost immediately, but still has another 2 players to find, both of them on full HP, and he's not aware of the position of the mirror. Sneaking up, Phantom deals a hefty chunk of damage onto him, but gets taken down. Keeks from the hatch, though, shuts it down. NightWolve, they find a map point here on Villain's map pick of Villa, and suddenly we might get Cafe after all.
And it's really unfortunate for Villains there, because Kisat has effectively been null in 3 of those rounds.
Yeah.
2 disconnects and an early pick there with nothing really given. And it was once again that shield library stairs giving a lot of trouble to the side of Villains, and it led to so many kills up on that top floor. And we still had that Frost playing there the entire time, and ultimately I believe it was that player on that shield who got that final kill from the hatch, because they just weren't dislodged. There was no attempt to move them out of that position. The sledge being taken down early, Yana as well, just led to no nades being used. So they were completely free to play that position. And it seems like Villains are going to try and bank on that same success. But NightWolve, they're bringing nades, they're bringing the EMPs, they're even bringing a Twitch. There's surely no way that shield survives the round. So it's really going to be how Villains respond to that pressure, respond to that change in the setup that dictates whether or not they win this round.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be that adaptation that we see coming through that's really going to be the decider for this one. Kikas has switched off onto the gridlock, but we see a Twitch coming back through in response instead of a Nomad. So, I mean, it's looking pretty good so far for the attack of NightWolves, obviously only just looking at their composition. For the side of Villains, they've possibly gone for a bit more of sort of a fraggy lineup, especially seeing Eternal on that Oryx, looking to get nice and aggressive on the roam. We've got Keysat out over on that northeastern side as well. Kian and Nerd obviously playing out here on mezzanine just to hold this top floor like is necessary. But the real focus will be on what Eternal can do on this Oryx, sneaking around the car garage, possibly going to be able to flank up into Trophy, possibly going to be able to sneak up even onto the top floor without being noticed by any flank drones that the attack might have. So that's going to be the main worry. What can Eternal do in this round? Because he's going to need to show up big here on this flank if villains have any shot at staving off this this map 3.
We're seeing the barricades being used throughout that top floor just to try and stall the attack, waste their time and cut off lines of sight, make the presence known. And the presence was known, but Keysat playing a very open angle, maybe wasn't aware, maybe ego getting in the way, think he could win that gunfight, but he gets taken down once again, and that's countless rounds now where he's just not had impact due to a variety of factors. It's unfortunate, again, as we said, for villains, but NightWolve, they're taking full advantage of the situation, pushing up aggressively. The shield goes down and they have full control of Officer. Cobra is still below, potential for a flank or a nitro cell, but with very little information being given to him, he's got to be careful to save this utility if he can.
Yeah, you don't want to use it straight away. You also don't want to die with it in pocket, so it's just that balancing act. Nerd, though, does take down bankers. Shinji does find a trade, makes it a 4 versus 3, traded back yet again by Eternal, who's gone for a different route rather than this flank, instead of going round through the kitchen side. And indeed, now back to the bomb site, it's actually going to be the Valkyrie of Cobra who's out here on the kitchen side, and suddenly this bomb site looks very inaccessible. No hard breach to speak of. That hatch will stay closed. Now they have to try and find another angle for it. Keeks is going to be pushing down these blue stairs, possibly aware that the Wamai of Kian is playing inside a mudroom, but with the timer ticking down, only 25 seconds left on the clock. Blacklist can't find the shots onto Kian, however, Keeks is there to collect. Great piece of team play there of Shinji, trying to find the pick, but wall-banged by Cobra, and thus the diffuser surrendered now as well, making it an infinitely more impossible situation for the attack. Eternal looks away at just the wrong time, but the kill came through. We're going all the way.
7-7, it can't get closer than this. A very good bounce back from villains there. And it was quite an unconventional defense there. We see that hatch getting closed off. There's no chance for a real kind of rotate there. And it forces the attacker's hand to go for these more aggressive, these more unusual avenues into the site. They can't just drop in and get those kills. So they try and go through down the stairs. They get shut down. They try and walk in through sight, go through the rotate, get shut down, try and just do anything really, get shut down. It was unfortunate for Blacklist. It was unfortunate for the player on the main stairs. There was a gunfight they should have realistically won, but villains either got away or even better, they got a pick back. So good composure from the side of villains there. It's certainly not going to be necessarily the most calm situation there. Down on potentially map point, you're already a map up, lower bracket. You don't want to throw this away. They get it to 7-7, and now they've got to come back on that attack. So it really comes down to A, whether or not Keysat disconnects, because he's been that star player for at least the first half. Nerd and Eternal have risen up to his heights in his absence. And B, if Keysat gets first picked, because he's not had a good past 5 rounds, really. So he needs to be finding value on these operators, because he was such a star player in that first half. And you don't want to see your star players cooling off this late, this early on, because you've still got potentially a whole other map to play. You need him to still be on his A game to finish off this round, get it done in 2, and relax for the rest of the night.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, it would be an historic comeback if NightWolve were able to win this, especially with the way things started, with a pretty historic comeback for themselves as villains on Villa. Blacklist taking the first bits of damage here in this round, and we're seeing this very familiar sort of aggression from villains like we saw on that first map. Very early pressure onto the defenders within the first minute, where it has been a bit slower here because there's no pick within that first 30 to 60 seconds. but Kisat is going to be looking to try and push for it. Eternal as well is there as backup. Look at how aggressive Kisat's getting here on this shield. Just possibly reading this setup. They know that they're not going to want to get too close. Using this shield against them, Shinji could be in a very dangerous position here. Kisat, again, does not want to overheat, does not want to over-aggress. That main breach does get opened up, though, here, Joe.
And Kisat in a crucial position here because he can hold potentially deep angle into sight or maybe get a nade kill onto that piano position. And if Keeks is swinging aggressively, the nade might not even be necessary. It all relies on this engagement from Kisat. If he can get a first pick, it will do wonders for the attacking side here, give them a perfect avenue to sight. As Shinji gets more and more open, more and more aggressive, these players from on the defense may be feeling the pressure, feeling the need to go for a pick to try and shut it off. But so far, it's resulted in damage. Shinji, around 40 health taken away. Blacklist only on 30, and a great nade nearly takes out Shinji there on 10 HP with his position. Most importantly, is known. They are aware of him being on the foot, but Blacklist and Banquist get two great picks, and Blacklist nearly a second onto that double window. He's low, but he still has a gun, and that's what matters. And suddenly, the favor is drastically shifted towards the defense here. Eternal tries his best, gets a pick. Shinji still very low. Phantom 2, it's very much doable for the side of villains here, as we're currently on max OT. Shinji plays aggressive, and it works out well. The risk works wonders. It is a 1 versus 4, 1 versus 3 for Nerd, and map 3 is looking like an inevitability here.
Cafe Dostoevsky calling. The phone line is ringing. And, well, NightWolve, they pick up, they stave off the comeback, they pull things back here on Chalet. We're going all the way to map 3. They are not done yet, and we have possibly 15 more rounds to navigate. As, I mean, what a game that we have seen here. And there's still more of it to come. Wow, wow, wow. 8-7 to NightWolve. Cafe Dostoevsky is going to be up next. We're not going to waste any more of your time. Go grab a drink, because I'm certainly going to need one after that. Get some water down me. Stay hydrated, folks, because Cafe Dostoevsky, well, that's going to be an absolute banger coming up just a few minutes. Hi, everyone. We're back for map number 3, Cafe Dostoyevsky.
We shouldn't be.
We shouldn't be.
I maintain I was right. But I didn't consider the connectivity factor, and now we're here after Villains unfortunately play 2 rounds 4 versus 5. To their credit, one of them they do win. NightWolve managed to take it to OT and they take the map 8-7, and now we're on Cafe, the same Cafe I said there was no chance we'd be. And yet here we are, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else. We're here at Cafe, and I have been proven to be an absolute moron. So,
yay! I mean, to be fair, that was a wild end to Chalet.
It was, and you got to say fair play to NightWolve for sticking with it. Obviously, they were given a bit of a divine intervention, you could say, with those disconnects, but they still stuck with it. They still won those 5v5 rounds. We can't take it away from them. And they managed to build a bit of momentum by the end of it. So fair play to NightWolves getting us to map 3. But this is it. Everything comes down to Cafe. So I'm really intrigued to see how things play out. We obviously went into Chalet assuming that, it's going to be really favoring Villains. They love that map. They've never once banned it. They were coming off a great win, 5 rounds in a row. But NightWolve, they showed they were still here to fight. They still had some fight left in them, and fight they did. They took it all the way to overtime, got it 8-7. So it's really just a toss-up, I think, as to what we see in Cafe. It could be blow for blow, or one of these teams could potentially just run out of energy, and we could be seeing something like as crazy as a 7-0 to end off this series.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know what we have in store here on Cafe. I don't know. I really don't know what we have in store for us, honestly. It's a complete toss-up here, right? Because both Villa and Chalet were so close, and they shouldn't have been. So Cafe Dostoyevsky, who knows? Actually, just who knows?
I mean, it plays significantly differently to Chalet. You would historically favour the defense going into Cafe.
You'd favour the defense on Villa, but
yeah, it's really it's been a very odd series, and it's been quite the head scratcher at times with some of the plays and some of the outcomes we've seen here. That Villa springs to mind with the 4-2-5-1 attacking half, but if we're just playing it by the numbers, you'd expect Cafe. You'd expect to see more defender-sided.
I'm actually
actual nerd emoji here correcting me. Okay.
ESA so far, 51% attacking win rate.
Okay, so disregard everything I've said. You'd expect to see 3-3 half going into Cafe, which is exactly the sort of chaos we saw on Chalet. So potentially another OT we've got on our hands here to end off this series and to end off one of these teams' run in the tournament. You know, this is lower bracket, of course. There's no more lifelines after this. It's win or leave, basically, and there's no chance of you getting money if you leave.
No, absolutely not. And it's going to be a difficult situation to navigate. Obviously, Cafe Dostoyevsky is a very, very complex map when it comes to all the things the attack has to do, when it comes to all the things the defense has to do. You know, you've got those 3 floors. It's a very big map. You've got to try and clear it. You've got to try and get to the site to execute. You've got a whole bunch of windows and skylights to try and take care of. And also, you know, thinking about Pillar, it's not standard to have that big sort of balcony. Yeah, you sort of have it on Chalet, but not to the same extent that you see here on Cafe Dostoyevsky. There's all of those different sort of avenues to try and navigate, thinking about just the complex geometry of the map. And yeah, I reckon we're just going to be seeing an absolute banger here.
Yeah, as you said, it's a map partly due to its size, partly due to the different angles. It's a map where both sides, attack and defense, can't really afford to skip any steps of their respective rounds. So
yeah,
it's really going to favor the team that I'd say that really puts in as much effort as possible in this match. I know it's kind of a given that, okay, well, you always want these teams to be putting in full effort, but you really have to dot your I's, cross your T's on Cafe, or else the enemy will just slip through.
Yeah, absolutely is. We're going to see the first bans to come through here. It's going to be Flores yet again being taken out here. Obviously, yeah, villains are going to start on the defense, and they get the first pick here. The first ban even. Flores went down, and just to explain how it worked, villains had the best round difference over the course of the series, so they got to pick the starting side here. They opted to pick the defense, and should we go to overtime, NightWolve picked to start in the defense if we head all the way there. So potentially we see villains start on attack on overtime should we get there, but that's just the way that sort of pick and veto has transpired.
Yeah, very close round differential. I believe it's 14-13 because of just how close both these maps have been. We saw that astonishing comeback map 1 and that very close map 2, and that just leaves villains with ever so slight an advantage. But starting on defense here could be the thing that wins them this whole map. You can get the pace going with that traditionally easier side. Obviously, ESA, it has tended to lean ever so slightly towards the attack, but still, I think you would agree that the defensive side overall is a little bit more comfortable, a little bit easier, especially in those opening rounds when the map is still in its infancy. Like, it's just better to make your opponents come to you than actually have to be proactive on those rounds. So villains are going to be happy that they got to choose that defensive side.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a tricky one, obviously. Like we've said about how close this series has been, it's kind of impossible to tell how this map will go. But looking at it from a different point of view, we might just see the same sort of thing. Also, just to point out with the bans here, we've seen Azami be banned out every single time, and also banned out, we've actually just seen the exact same bans every time.
Flores Azami.
From villains, Flores Azami. It's been the side of NightWolve that have switched it up, but again, not really. They've banned Jackal already this series, and then the defender has gone Valkyrie, Solis, and now Mira, which again is all very, very standard stuff.
Now, to me, those villains even bans there, it kind of says to me that they don't want to play with Flores, and for that reason, they feel compelled to ban Azami because Flores is kind of a necessity to deal with that Azami. So if you don't want to play with Flores, you're going to have a hell of a hard time dealing with these barricades. So you just take them both out every map to just deal with that whole problem. And going into this map, we see first bit of damage being dealt by the side of NightWolves onto Eternal, taking damage very early on, right at the start of prep phase. Don't know if he was going for a spawn peek or just caught, unluckily, rotating through sight through a window, maybe. Not a fatal amount of damage by any means, still plenty of health left, and he still has all his utility remaining, so on that Solus operator, he can still be an absolute pain for the attack by scanning out these drones, destroying this intel. But Cobra as well eats a lot of damage, I think from a nade. I heard an explosion, and Blacklist is missing one of his frag grenades, so they very nearly get a very good pick onto the smoke to open up this round. Shinji on the rappel.
He's already used a canister.
Ticket bar.
Cobra's already used a canister. Cobra goes down, and Nerd and Eternal go down. That's a double kill from Bankers on the Ash to start us off here on Cafe Dostoyevsky. A lot of damage going back the other way, however, but just no kills. It's actually Blacklist who finds another. The ARX of the Yana is completely taken out Keysat, who ever since that disconnect on Chalet has kind of been absent from the series in a literal or metaphorical sense. It's now 2 versus 5. It's another Toxic Bay brings out from Cobra. Villains looking very much like they might just completely crumble here on this first round. It's 2 versus 5. Keeks is pushing in towards Cigar, spots out the player on side of Pixel, and Kian is able to find that kill. Cobra as well gets a kill with the Toxic Bay, possibly downed by the shotgun. But with Shinji finding Kian, that should just be the nail in the coffin. Cobra, little amount of HP, 1 versus 3 here. I don't think it'll be done. Phantom starts to plant the diffuser, and as soon as that goes down, well, doesn't even need to. Blacklist shuts it down here. The NightWolve start out with a statement. Chalet, not a fluke, because they get the first round here on Cafe Dostoyevsky.
Yeah, Villains seeming a bit rattled by that last map, maybe. They took a lot of early deaths there. That might be due to the site choice. The Skylight provides a very interesting dynamic with this bomb site.
Similar
because
to the big window
basically,
on top floor chalet.
yeah, it provides a good cutoff for the attack that's very easy for the attack to gain. And it's even more powerful for the attack on Cafe because it's not just one angle. You get a lot of coverage through that Skylight, which makes this site very different, and it overall contributes to how Cafe is a very differently played map than many others in the rotation. So it's intriguing that the defense go here a second time because they seem to just be absolutely demolished by these angles from the attack. It was very nearly a flawless. There was a burst of life from the remaining players in that 2 versus 5, but by no means enough to win out that round or even make it close. So